on my mind.
Hello and welcome to episode 43 of the award-winning The Boxing Show with me, your host, Rob Tebbutt. As always, I'd like to remind everybody to please like, comment and subscribe. Turn your notifications on for more boxing content. Now that's out of the way. We are joined by the usual twosome of Mr. Barry Jones and Mr. Andy Clarke as we review, belatedly, last week and weekend's action and look forward to... Well, there's not an awful lot to look forward to this weekend, is there, guys? There's no
it's
UK
empty,
show.
isn't it?
So what's the plan for this weekend, Barry? You always up to no good when there's no boxing to keep you out of trouble?
I'll be studying fights from the 50s. Breaking down their styles and understanding how they fought, and then I will give you an understanding why people box the way they do today. I don't know what I'm doing.
That's exactly the type of insight that we have you.
I'm having a yes day with my kids.
Okay.
So they're going to do whatever I tell them.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah,
I thought it was actually is it usually the other way around?
Yeah, but
I feel like I've got a lot to learn from you when it comes to parenting. I'm in the early stages. I feel
not
like
just parenting, loads of
I feel like I've got a lot to learn. Well, I've learned a lot. I've plagiarised a lot of your work already, professionally.
I don't know what that word means, but yes,
he's going home and telling his kids.
But in terms of parenting, I feel like we should talk.
Yeah, listen. You can't hug or hit your kids enough. I say hug, headlock.
What about you, Andy? Much planned for this weekend? Will you be delving back into the 50s like Barry?
No, I won't be. I'm going to see my parents. Going to take the baby off to see my parents. So that'll be not quite like going back to the 1950s, but that'll be nice and peaceful. I think me and Macklin are going to try and get a Macklin's Take recorded because we haven't done that for a while. He's got his second kid due kind of any time though, but he seems quite keen to get stuck back in, so yeah, I might do that.
When you have another kid on the way, mate, or you just boxing, focus on the work.
But more importantly than all that rubbish where you've seen your parents and me talking about my kids, all that crap, right? Where's the award?
It's a good point. Where is the award? I don't know. Jordan's not in it.
Allegedly won an award.
It should be here.
I haven't seen it. I thought it'd be on my mantelpiece by now.
The rings we wanted it.
It should be here. Yeah, we need the sports combat or the whatever it was, the sports industry rings.
Yeah, no one knows
need the rings.
Oh yeah, we get a ring. You get a ring.
Which does remind me, which is something that I am surprised that neither of you pointed out last week after we announced we didn't announce it, but we patted ourselves on the back. Is where are we going to go, guys? I did promise that we would do a boxing show on tour this year in 2024. I shouldn't have fucking said anything now.
No, you shouldn't. That was foolish.
But we're open to suggestion.
To me, that was when Bill and Smith was
open to suggest. That's a good point, actually. So it'll be myself, Andy, and Chris Bill and Smith. We'll be here.
You couldn't get Shane McGuigan. You got the next best thing.
Yeah,
he might still smell of me.
I think.
Where do you want to go?
Cardiff.
Haney Garcia.
That'd be a good one. Is that that's a good one. When's that announced? For April the
20th.
April the 20th.
That's a good time. That is.
That would be a good time. Will you be over there all working anyway?
I'm coming over you and I.
Well, yeah. I mean, well, now you will. I just wonder if I can just pay for one day of your time rather than
don't pay for a day of my time. No, it is. Don't
worry about that. Don't worry about that. Anyway,
here today,
let's moving on. But anyway, let us know in the comments.
Cars and trains and all that.
Yeah, you had a bit of. You actually. This is so Barry likes to pretend. Barry likes to pretend he doesn't like coming in, but he had to take a boat today. He went up and down ladders, all sorts. You took ages to get it, didn't you?
Well, that's my commitment. I thought, like. I don't want to say it. I don't take the blame for it. I don't take the credit for everything, right? I don't. But I listened to the podcast with Bill and what's his name, the knobhead, the big tall cruiserweight kid, some world champion or whatever, right? And it was shit. It was shit, man. It was shit.
All of Barry's burner accounts in the comments.
I forgot Chris can punch a bit, can't he?
Yeah, he'll be here in a couple of hours as well.
Will he?
He will.
I'm not scared of him. What time are we finishing?
Okay, but yeah, let us know in the comments. Yeah, Haney Garcia might be a shout actually. We'll bear that in mind. Canelo versus Charlo. Gonna lose money on that week,
he's boxing Charlo's cousin, Cello.
Canelo and Cello. Anyway,
Cello Render.
Cello. That'd be a good fight.
Cello could bang, man.
Heavy
that'd be a
hands.
good fight.
Heavy
Cello Renda
hands.
was in one of the best fights I've seen live.
Against
Him and Mackenzie.
Leon Mackenzie. Yeah, it was a great fight.
Absolutely fantastic.
Really?
Yeah, no, that's gone down in small hall folklore.
And I watched it because it was packed and I was stood up, because I'm short, just in case you didn't know. Just in case you didn't know, Tom. I watched it like through the armpits of people. It was like going back to being when I was a kid watching a show. Like honestly, I was watching it through there and it was unbelievable because he was done cello.
But he was like,
he was. I know Cello.
Half of his fights
Yeah.
on the verge of being knocked down.
I know Cello a bit because he's a
brilliant
coach
that night.
for Boxing Futures, a charity I'm involved with, and he his story's incredible. He turned pro with no experience at all, and no trainer, but he got his license and just started chinning people.
Yeah.
And you talk to people about sparring him, and they'll all just tell you like Cello Renda could just really his power was crazy, just this natural punching power he had.
And a real hard man as well.
Yeah, and a really nice bloke as well. Really good fun.
Like I said to Leon Mackenzie when he retired, I said, listen, I know you didn't retire on a win, but like, if there's a fight to go out in, that's the fight, because that was one of the best. If that was on a TV bill, that was fight of the year.
I remember it. I remember it well.
You worry about nothing to talk about. Look at it.
Yeah, he's one of these guys, Cello, where you wonder if someone had got hold of him a bit earlier, what he might have done, because he was matched ridiculously hard from the start, but still finished with kind of a half and half record. I mean, you can never really know, but everybody has their ceiling. But with that punching power and the toughness, I feel like he can maybe have won a British title. Anyway.
That's for our Cello Renda fans in the chat, of which there are many every week, wondering what's going on with him. Good to hear that he's involved with the next generation, though. Fighters like that are always credit to give something back. Anyway, right, let's talk about last week and move forward. Barry, going to come to you first for the return of Teofimo Lopez. Teofimo Lopez with a unanimous decision win over Jamaine Ortiz. But as we've said in the past, and we'll say it again, there seems to be two versions of Teofimo Lopez. There's the Lomachenko Lopez, the Josh Taylor Lopez, and then there's the Lopez that we saw at the weekend.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he was shit. I won't say anything at all. I mean, but yeah, I thought he had something to build off, and I thought, no, he's realised now, as good as talented as he is, and he has been brilliant. He's also had fights where he's been underwhelming, and I just thought he's realised now. And even though Ortiz was always going to be a tricky opponent, I thought in the end he would be able to cut the ring off, put him where he wanted him, and make Ortiz punch with him. And that's where I thought he was going to stop Ortiz. And I said that, didn't I? I think I picked he was going to stop him late, but he just followed him around the ring. And I understand. I didn't agree with the commentary at all. Actually, that they were saying he's running too much. It wasn't a great fight to watch, and I do understand that. But it's the other guys. He has to stop him from running. He has to. You've got a guy like Lopez who's a pressure fighter, really. I know he's all flash, but that's what he likes to walk you down and beat you up. Like he jumped in with the shots and things like that, and he was just waiting for Ortiz to walk to him. And so everyone again he's quick in his feet, but even then it was in straight lines, so it was easy for Ortiz. Once he changed direction, and Ortiz is a good mover, but he's no Lomachenko. I mean, once he changed direction, Lopez just went, oh, okay, go on then. Let him go. He just let him escape too often. And I didn't think he won. I thought Ortiz won the fight. A couple of rounds. So he won like a massive robbery. But I think he got to feel he's hard done by. I think, and if you can win a fight, if you've got to rip the belt from the champion, which is absolute bollocks, we know that, or you can win a fight on the move, then change the whole rules and scoring criteria of boxing then. Make the ring smaller then. Put chains on their ankles, make it so they can't move too far. I don't know but I mean, that's part of boxing. Whether you love it, it might not be TV friendly, it might not be adhere to fans, but that's part of boxing. You win a fight by hitting the target with a clean punch more often than the other guy, or more effectively than the other guy, because you could throw 10 punches, but if you throw a big one, it negates them. And that's makes it subjective, the word that we always like to use in boxing to get it when we want to sit on the fence. But also, I think that's he outboxed him. That's what I say. I think he outboxed Lopez, and he could have held his feet up him on. He could have done it. He could have made it like flurried now and again, as they were saying in the commentary. You throw, and I agree with that part. But the rest of it, the movement was really good from him, I thought, and Lopez couldn't deal with it, or just thought he had the arrogance of thinking you're not. And that's the problem with a lot of, I think, bigger names now. Is they think if you're not a big name, you're not a good fighter. And I think a lot of fans feel that. If they haven't never heard you before, who's this? without actually having a look who this guy is or the woman is. You haven't got to be you haven't got to be a famous person to be good. And I think Lopez has fallen into that trap. You're not a big name, so I'll batter you. And I think he went in with that mindset and just thought, I'll walk you down. In the end, you're going to stop. I'm going to knock you out. And he just didn't. And I thought he lost the fight. So you got to feel very, very lucky.
Andy, it's we sat here and we spoke about kind of a tale of two Teofimo Lopez's. It reminded me a lot of the Sandor Martin fight, which was obviously the fight that he had before the Josh Taylor fight, where I think a lot of the same things he did wrong in that fight he did against Jamaine Ortiz this past weekend. And I agree with Barry. I thought Jamaine Ortiz won the fight.
Yeah, so did I. Again, not by 7-5. I think I had at the end.
Yeah, me too.
Moving is not running. In America particularly, they do seem to think that a fighter who doesn't stand and trade is running. Moving is not running. Like Barry said, that's boxing. It made me wonder why he took the fight, because he did struggle against Sandor Martin, and for that reason I gave him credit for taking it, because plenty of people wouldn't. He could have chosen somebody else, couldn't he? But I'd imagined that he wanted to show that he had improved and could give a better showing against a fighter like that, although there was no real need for him necessarily to do that. But yeah, I thought he was lucky. And as I say, it made me wonder why he'd taken that fight, because as early as the 5th round he was complaining about how Ortiz was going about his business, and that's a terrible look for any athlete in any sport, team sport, individual sport. You have no right to complain about how the other person chooses to strategize or go about things tactically, so long as it's within the rules or laws of the given sport. That's a very weak argument. What's happening here? He's not doing exactly what I want him to do. Well, of course he isn't, because he wants to win, and you devise a strategy that gives you the best possible chance of winning. And I thought he did do enough to win, so it was a bit of a backward step. Yeah, I agree with the pair of you that he looked like he had kind of got beyond that, and that hopefully we were going to see a bit more consistency. So just don't take fights like that anymore, I think would be my advice. So I'm sure he's tuning into this waiting for my advice on what he should do with his career going forward. But he's much better suited fighting Subriel Matias than he is fighting Jamaine Ortiz, I would say.
But how do you think? What does he expect Haney's going to do? Yeah, he might not be dancing like that, but he's going to be constantly jabbing, moving.
If you're another 140 pounder, you're looking at that and you're thinking, yeah. Like, because I think Jamaine Ortiz, as athletic as he is, and he boxed very well at the weekend. I say boxed very well at the weekend. It was obviously Thursday anyway. Boxed very disciplined and stuck to the game plan. But he's not naturally kind of that style of fighter. But he's obviously looked at the Martin fight and gone, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can keep it nice and long, and I can frustrate you, and I can bore you. I think, like we were talking about the commentary earlier, I think one of many favourite quotes that I had from the weekend was, he's winning the rounds, but he's not winning the fight, which was brilliant.
Were you watching the
international feeds?
The Top Rank commentary, not ESPN. Okay, yeah, I watched it earlier in the week, but I couldn't really...
do you watch on Sky, do you?
No, I did, but but I had to turn the sound down because I was trying to parent. So I didn't really hear it, but it
wasn't good, man.
It was one of those fights where I did wonder watching it back after the event, because I saw the fallout and I saw the reaction to it. I'm always interested by that when I watch it back, to see if it was what people were saying it was, and whether maybe it looked different on TV to how it did in the venue, because we talk about this a bit, don't we? And it does happen. It does happen. And I think that particularly can happen when you've got a fight where the dynamic is that one fighter is on the front foot and the other one is on the back foot. Because when you're ringside looking up through the ropes at that kind of like looms really large over you in a way that it doesn't really if you watch it on the TV, because on the TV you're seeing them from the waist up most of the time, and it's just not quite as apparent, and you know the overhead camera will give you a different shot, whereas if you're looking up at it and you're always seeing one person on the front foot and the other one more on the back foot, I think those types of fights can tend to look different in the arena.
But also Ortiz, Lopez wasn't putting loads of pressure on him.
No.
He was trying to walk.
It was like he was just waiting for him to stop and stand still.
So
it was just like,
you can argue if you did if you put loads of pressure on him and was just throwing shots, just trying to work him in the end and try and beat him up, and Ortiz was just spinning him all the time, and they understand. Oh, you didn't do anything. You pap and like what I would do, pap and run away. He wasn't doing that. He was like he did engage with Lopez when he had to, but other than that, he just have a straight. You keep turning, and he fired bump 1-2 down the middle, and he turned and he changed
there were a
direction
couple of
with his
bits,
feet.
weren't there? Maybe it was the fifth, or it was like about halfway through, maybe, where Lopez kind of sarcastically just kind of like danced backwards a bit himself and then beckoned him in, and Ortiz just stepped in and gave it to him. And I just thought
he was against he was in the corner, wasn't he, before the end of the rounds. We've seen this now in a lot of fights recently. So Maxi Hughes against George Kambosos, I thought it was very similar. Yeah, where Kambosos didn't have any success really. Like Lopez didn't really land any. I can't remember one eye-catching shot throughout 12 rounds.
Well, they started the commentary again. Like I don't like slagging commentary off a year ago, but they went, they said about a jab for Lopez, and he missed by that much. I mean, we all do it, maybe. I don't know. Sometimes we don't call off a punch. But I mean, it was right in front of him, and he missed by that far. He just threw the punch. Good jab to the body from Lopez. I don't think it was. He didn't touch the body. I think to be a good jab to the body, he's got to hit the target.
I mean, do you think it's fair to say that American judges do more than judges anywhere else in the world prefer someone who's coming forward? Because for conversations I've had with, not a great sample size, but with a few, they generally said, I like the guy who brings it.
Potentially, but it's got to be.
I rate Steve Weisfeld as probably one of maybe the best judge out there.
And he had it 117, 111.
He had it 9-3, yeah. So I look at that and I just think, did it look different in the arena to how it looked on TV? That's really what made me think that.
15-13, even if you can flip that quite quickly, can't you?
Yeah.
But even then, I didn't think it was massively difficult to score. So you can have a fight that's only 2 rounds, and go that could have gone either way. You can also have a fight that's only 2 rounds and go it's only 2 rounds, but it's still there's a guy who's won that fight. Yeah. And that's kind of a misconception now, is that if you have it 7-5 or 6-4, it could have gone either way. That doesn't mean
you're only a round away from a draw. But I remember you said this about Jonas Mayer, didn't you? Was that you had 6-4, but if you were going to change around, it would have made it 7-3, not 5-5. Yeah. That's just that's a good example. That was a kind of like clear rationale, and you get a few of those, don't you? Where you'll say, well, I had 7-5, and you're a round away from a draw, and you think,
well, no, I'm actually a round away from it being wider. Again, it's sort of like you have X amount of close rounds, and there was a lot of close rounds in the fight, but again, I felt close rounds that only one guy was landing anything in those 3 minutes. But even if you give half of those to Lopez, I certainly can't see 9-3 Lopez, 117, 111. I think it's a terrible card.
That's you watching it. That's you with a maybe. I know, because sometimes you do the undercards of fights, a real long bill, and you almost, it's horrible to say it, but this is just a one. This is going to be this is a prospect who's 7-0 boxing, a journeyman. You almost just expect him to win all the rounds. So you almost don't concentrate. I've done in the past with Box Nation in the early days, not really concentrating. Go, actually, you might have lost a few rounds here, and I haven't really been mentioning it because I was just thinking he's meant to win every round.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And they might be that a preconceived idea that Lopez is going to win this anyway. So the guy's just not doing enough, and he landed with one shot, and that's all I took notice of. That I can't believe a judge would do that, but maybe that would be the only way you could really. You're giving too many rounds on just the basis of you thinking he's going to win the fight anyway.
Yeah, and
it sounds ridiculous.
And also, it's just the what Andy's just mentioned there about people coming forward, but it has to be effective aggression. You can't just be plodding forward and not landing any shots. Again, Oscar Valdez, when he boxed Conceição, thought it was very similar, where he's plodding forward. He's not really landed anything, but you're scoring rounds on him plodding forward.
Because the funny, we talk about scoring. I think we managed not to talk about it too much. We talk about it as much as we kind of have to, but Barry just encapsulated it a few minutes ago. What you're looking for is who hits the other one most effectively. That's it. Like, that is the primary criteria. And other things like who's on the front foot, ring generalship, defence, they count if you can't separate them on that primary criteria. It's not an all-round kind of mix. That's what you're looking for. And you have to try as hard as you possibly can to separate them based on that. Don't just kind of watch it and think, it's pretty even on punches. Let's go to he's going forward. I'll give him the round. Yeah. That's not what it is. It's straightforward in that sense. It doesn't make it easy because, again, 10 light punches equals how many heavier ones. That's the That's the computation that is tricky, but it's not.
And also, by the way, that big punch thrown, did it have an effect? So my 10 punches I've thrown, I'm a perfect example for it, they had no effect but the scoring shots. But your big punch, everyone's heard it go bam, but I haven't blinked. That's had the same effect as my 10 little ones. So my 10 little ones should supersede yours. I mean, that the punch has to have an effect.
That's it. And that's why I always think like the computer game energy bar analogy is just the best one.
No, the half glass of water.
Oh, don't go into that.
That is whenever anybody asks me to what's it all about, if you're trying to explain scoring, it's that. And as for how you land a punch that might take a chip off that bar, it doesn't matter how you do it. It doesn't matter if you're on the front foot, on the back foot. If you've got this horrific style, Delphine Pursoon was always like the hardest fighter I've ever had to score, I think, because everything she did looks horrendous, but it doesn't matter.
No, it's effective.
Exactly. If it lands, it lands, and that is it. And it doesn't matter. It's not what you like. It's not cleaner work. It's just who hits who more effectively.
I know those criteria then help with it gives boxing a fair playing field for people who have power but no boxing skills, people who have loads of boxing skills and no power, people who have neither but have a great chin, people who, you know what I mean, whatever you're good at. So you're tall, short, for your weight, whatever you are, stocky, big puncher, not a puncher, good mover, flat-footed. I mean, your style can win a fight if you can impose on the other one effectively. And I think with that criteria of scoring being again easy to manipulate, to your will subjectively or whatever, it also gives an opportunity for that fighter to win that round. Because if he can't because I couldn't punch, I had no power. If it's all just about power shots, then what's the point in me boxing? I'm doing another sport, I'm back playing in the NBA.
Yeah,
and if it's all about just the more punches landed, just that, then
what's the point in sitting down on your shots?
I might be undefeated. Why you hit me? Don't you hit me hard? And I'll just sit down and take a rest, can I, for a little while? I mean, if big punches don't have an effect, so I think it's that way. The way of scoring means that whatever style you have, whatever your strengths are, if you can force on your opponent, that gives you the win, rather than just you have to do this.
But you definitely do get judges
Does that make sense?
it does make sense. You definitely do get judges who give rounds for people coming forward, and you can see that they do it by you just look at their card. And I don't think Steve Weisfeld's one of them actually, but you do get them, and score will be announced, and you just think to yourself, the only way that's happened is because he's given him rounds because he was coming forward. That's it. Doesn't matter that he did fuck all when he was coming forward and got hit whilst he was coming forward. He was coming forward, and that's enough to win a round.
Just away from the scoring, because we said before we started, what we can talk about. We're now spent half an hour talking about this. But away from that, Barry, going to come to you first. How much of a concern is this for the Teofimo Lopez business, brand, whatever you want to call it? Because if you're looking at that 140 division, like there's hard fights whichever way you look there. And now I think, particularly based on what we saw last Thursday and the Sandor-Martin fight, maybe some of the names that people weren't expecting to be hard fights for a Teofimo Lopez, the two names that really have emerged for me is Jack Catterall and Richardson Hitchens. Put both of them in against Teofimo Lopez. Now that's a tricky fight. Really
if I'm
tricky
Teofimo Lopez, there is no way I'm fighting Jack Catterall
or Richardson Hitchens because of the way that they both box. Like where does this leave him? We're constantly always talking about the dad and the training and does he need to do this? Does he need to do that?
What were they saying in the corner to him?
But then he turns around and he beats up Josh Taylor and everyone goes, oh, well, it obviously works. And then a fight later we're going, well, I don't know what the dad's doing. Like,
is he doing it by himself?
Yeah.
Is that what's happening?
The thing is, when it works, it really works. That's the thing. And when he beats Taylor, you go, there you go. He can deal with the southpaw at the highest level quite effectively.
But someone who's forcing the fight.
Yeah, exactly. So Jack Catterall would be a nightmare. That southpaw, that slick style, out with the jab, and patient as well, like Ortiz was. Yeah. Very patient and make you walk, and frustrate you because we're not letting you look like the superstar. I think he's too engrossed in his image, which ironically, if he was less engrossed in his image, it would help his image. but it would, wouldn't it? Because if he would have went out and just forced that pace, which I know he can do. And he might have to take some shots. It might be a scrappy affair, but in the end, he would get the stoppage, say for instance, then his image isn't still intact, and he goes and he piggybacks off the back of that Josh Taylor win, and it looks even better. And he's like, oh, he's back and there's a new weight, he's better now. You know, and he is a test. All of a sudden, put him in the pro grade now, just before he boxes. While Haney boxes him, put him in the pro grade. If he can do a better job than Haney did, then the winner of Haney Davis, he gets that. You know, it would be that sort of look. But now you're thinking, as good as he is, and I do think he can get it right still when it counts. But you have to think, if he boxed Devin Haney tomorrow, he would be a hugely frustrated fighter who would probably lose 9-2, and then 2 drawn rounds because I can't count. One. Still told you that was.
But no, you make a good point there, and this is like you've kind of gone from Lopez. Oh, he's back. He's beaten Josh Taylor. He's this win over Lomachenko, win over Josh Taylor. But even Lomachenko is a guy who likes to come to you. Lopez didn't really have to go looking for him. He held the middle of the ring, and when every time Lomachenko come, he fired, and there was the threat of that kind of made Lomachenko go, actually, I can't really do this. But when he's had Sandor Martin, when he's had Jamaine Ortiz, Nakatani was a big, awkward, gangly thing. He didn't look great there. Yeah. You're in a position now with Teofimo Lopez where he's got the best wins of anyone in the division. He's a 2-weight lineal champion, but you sort of have to be careful with how you match him now, surely.
Yeah, I think you do now, because as I said previously, I felt like I was kind of impressed by him taking this fight, because you felt like Ortiz is an intelligent fighter, a good fighter, and that this would be how he would do it, the way that he did it at the weekend. But it doesn't work for Lopez, does it? So like you say, you've got this quite unusual situation of somebody who was absolutely proven it at the highest level, but you just want to make sure from now on in, and he's got a belt, so he can't really be forced to do anything. Just don't put him in with someone like that. It's a bit odd, but I think that's the reality of it.
But also at the same time, when he's firing on all cylinders, he's a joy to watch, and he's very, very hard to beat. And he's still one of the premier fighters in our weight division, clearly, not just because he got a belt, but just anyway. But he does blow hot and cold, and his hot and cold are quite dramatic. But you've got to give Ortiz his credit. I think Ortiz is a very good fighter. Will beat a lot of good. He's just unfortunate. He might be a world champion. He should be a world champion from Thursday night, but but he might still be a world champion. He's just unfortunately right now the fighters around his weight class are pretty good, so you might have to wait. He might be the Obakar of this generation.
I did feel he was unfortunate. I did feel like the last few rounds were going to cost him though. It was one of those when in 10, 11, 12, I was thinking. I think I put a tweet out at like 5 a.m, whatever time it was. And I said, "What?"
He still stays there.
What? I know. But for that fight as well.
But he was 5-4 up through 9 on 2 cards.
Yeah, and you just think like it's there for you. Like if you win 2 of these last 3 rounds, it's there for you. Go and get it. And he just. I don't get me wrong. Like, this is not to say that he threw it away or Lopez dominated those rounds at all. But it's kind of like, it's a football analogy. You give the judges an excuse, not an excuse, but like to give it to Lopez. You didn't rubber stamp. You boxed so disciplined. Just rubber stamp 2 of those last 3 rounds and you win.
But also, when you're in the corner, I imagine, you're so engrossed as a trainer. I'm not a trainer, but I imagine you're so engrossed. This is why they don't always throw the towel in, because you forget about the safety of your fighter sometimes, because you're engrossed trying to win the fight with him. And I think you're so engrossed as like, sticking to your plan, because you just think that worked. Yes, it worked. And you think you're ahead. You might think you're a bigger head than you are, but if things are working, do you take that risk of it not of doing again, trying to cement that win, and getting chinned or making a mistake? You know what I mean? It's one of those,
because that's the flip side, isn't it? If you say you go rubber stamp and he gets knocked out in the last minute of the 12th round when he's ahead, then everyone goes, "Wow, you should have just bloody boxed, man."
You see people, people who couldn't punch, but they've hurt somebody and they've gone, should they have gone for it? Or anyway, when you're against a guy who you should beat, you drop him or hurt him, should you go for it? But the risk of going for it means you get blasted out in 2 rounds and you feel embarrassed, or do you just go 8 rounds and get battered and lose every round? How do you work that out?
I think that's a difficult one for the corner, isn't it? That kind of dynamic, because it shouldn't be a thing. Or I wonder what the judges are seeing, rather than just being able to trust what you're actually seeing yourself, because you have a game plan, and I just feel like you would just have to stick to it and just say to him, "Listen, this is working. Keep doing what you're doing. You'll win the fight." Then you get to the end and he doesn't win, and that'll be heartbreaking. But I think it would be worse if you kind of got to the end and you kind of panicked a bit, doubted yourself, and just said, we need to win this last round big. And then he gets knocked out, and it turns out that the judges have got it right, and you didn't need to. I mean, that'd be just like...
Yeah, but yourself for hours of it.
That's it,
exactly,
But it's those exactly. It's those fine margins that
it's hard.
That do decide whether or not you've become world champion. One of the biggest wins that would have been the biggest win of his career, and probably
depends
would
what
remain.
you're doing. If you whether it's out the character or not. When it's a close fight, you have to do something more. And don't mean that, because I never went forward. You haven't got to go forward and throw millions, but you've got to throw millions of punches. But you haven't got to go forward. You haven't got to be all of a sudden a slugger, but you've got to do more. And you're well aware you can still do more and be a boxer, by the way. You can still throw more punches, but you've got to do more. So you hold your feet a little bit more. You get close to the target rather than dancing, or whatever you got to do. You do. If it's a close fight, if you've got energy, you got to waste it all in the ring. Don't walk out that. You walk out that ring with still air in your lungs. In a close fight, you've lost. Then that's on you.
Yeah,
that's on you.
That was the feeling that I kind of had as those last few rounds were unfolding. Was that I had him winning. But if you don't get this, like these last 2 or 3 rounds, you are going to kick yourself. But having said that, I did think he did enough anyway. Moving on the same night, somebody else who was ringside, very interested observer for Lopez versus Ortiz, I'm quite sure he liked what he saw, was Keyshawn Davis, who had a win over Jose Pedraza. Jose Pedraza, as we all know, kind of a battle-tested and war-torn fighter, I think it's fair to say at this stage.
Still a good fighter, though.
Still a good fighter. But the freshness and the
he's in the
youth
away
of
corner
Davis,
now, isn't he?
yeah, I mean that fight kind of was
I'll tell you
what it was on the night.
He's the tallest 5'8" fighter I've ever seen.
Pedraza.
Yeah, they got him down as 5'8".
Yeah, he's never 5'8".
He's massive, isn't he? I mean, to me, 5'8" is massive. But I mean, he's way tall. Like they got Keyshawn Davis at 5'9". He looked like he was twice the size of him. It's just like he's a good fighter. I thought he started off really well, Pedraza. Loads of energy. He was moving his head all the time. But you got a kid in Keyshawn Davis who just never worries or panics or rushes anything. It's brilliant to watch. He really is.
I thought it was a good performance from Davis. He's had a couple of his
so.
last few. I mean, we all know over here how good Francesco Patera is, but in
Yeah.
America he's a Eurobum, obviously, because
course,
they all are. But he didn't look great in that, and I felt like he needed to. I think if he would have gone the distance against Pedraza at this stage of Pedraza's career, with all due respect to him and all the fights that he's had, then maybe those questions would have continued. But I thought he dealt with Pedraza in a very sort of cold, ruthless way at the weekend.
So professional. He's so much like Crawford, isn't he? I know they're in the same camp, but you can see it. Like he got those long arms as well. He punches. He sits back on the back foot as well. When he throws the shot, and he could go through the gears quicker, but he knows he don't have to. He just takes his time. But every shot he hits you with is not a knockout punch, but it's solid. And every time you throw a shot and you miss, he makes you pay for your mistakes. But when he goes through the gears, even then, he doesn't rush anything. It's like the rhythm to his work. It's like just lovely. Like it's like bam, 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 bam. When he throws a punch, it's not. There's no like intermittent like movement in it. It's not bam, 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 bam. It's just like he doesn't rush anything. So it's just a fluency to his work. And so when he throws a shot, he knows he's going to hit, and he gets loads of weight on the shot. So when he goes through the gears, lands with a 3-4 punch combination, he slows it down in his head. So he makes sure I'm going to hit you here, 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 and here, and so he gets every bit of purchase on every shot, and that's what breaks you down.
That was a really impressive thing, wasn't it? It was how accurate he was. Almost every single punch he threw landed somewhere, didn't it?
And when he decided to sort of step the pace up, which was the start of the third round, Pedraza really couldn't go with him, and that's when you saw the different stages of their careers.
He relaxes his upper body and tenses his lower body, so he pushes off his legs to get the power, but he keeps his upper body loose so he can get the speed without rushing it, and he can get that movement that use his body and just push his back legs. He gets the body mechanics perfect with his punches. It's absolutely perfect. And all because his legs are quite wide. You see when he's going to, you can see him engage when he wants to engage, and when he's going to start throwing a combination, you can see his legs just a little bit wider, just a little bit of springs a little bit, sits like that, and then goes boom, 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 boom. And it's just lovely to watch. Like and I watched it back a few times, rewound it like the little bit of the finish. So look at that! Like he knew what was going to land and what he was going to throw. Like about 3 seconds before he decided to let his hands go, there was no, I'm going to throw this combination. I see the target. I know exactly what I'm going to do, and it's going to land. And once I go like have my legs, boom, and just fluent. And to him, it's slow motion, I reckon. It's like you got that anticipation thing that really good fighters have.
Yeah, he never looks like he's Russian.
Until he looks shit in his next fight.
But having said that, I did think that when he boxed Patera, I did feel like there were times where Patera was able to rush him and get him out of that kind of rhythm that he has to his work in times. But
he's sitting back now. I think that he got that Crawford thing where when he's throwing a jab, he's looking, everything's off the back leg, so he's sitting back a little bit more. Make himself a hard, because he's got that reach advantage. Make himself a hard target to hit. Gives him a little bit more space and time as well to figure things out. And I think they've opened his brain a little bit more. He's a naturally gifted kid anyway. Obviously, he's an Olympic silver medalist, but gold medalist really, because he boxed Andy Cruz.
Andy, going to come to you. Obviously, there was there was some good talk between Keyshawn Davis and Teofimo Lopez in the week, which was captured by the excellent social team at Top Rank. But after the fight, Keyshawn Davis was there ringside. He was calling him this, that, we're going to do this. I think before the fight at the weekend, naturally in boxing, because everything changes as soon as the final bell goes on the night, I think everyone would say, it's way too early for Keyshawn Davis. Lopez is 140, he's this, he's that. Based on what we saw at the weekend, is he a million miles off? I know he's a lightweight, he'd have to go to 140 and all of that stuff, but it seems as though, obviously what happened in the week, the beautiful accidental clip from Top Rank, and then at the weekend, they're drawing at each other. It seems as though that could be something in the pipeline, would be a big fight. And I feel like the levels, and Keyshawn Davis is looking at that thinking, mate, I could do that. Like what Jamaine Ortiz did to you, no problem. I can do that. I'm an Olympic silver medalist. It seems as though that fight maybe isn't as far away as potentially we would have thought it would have been a week ago.
No, definitely not. It could be brewing, I think, in the minds of the top rank matchmakers, because why not? They'll wait and see what happens with Lopez. The aim will be to unify titles to get him in the biggest possible fights they could get, you would imagine. The aim will be to keep Davis winning and progressing, and maybe they can collide sooner than people thought, if people indeed thought they ever would, because that is just a very easy fight to make, isn't it? They're both top-ranked fighters, and it could be a big fight. It could be a real big fight. What happened during the week was perfect. And I liked the exchange as well, because Davis was nice and calm. Lopez was calm too, but it was just a kind of slightly uneasy dynamic if you're a Lopez supporter, I would say, where you're just thinking, why did that bother you? And why are you now telling him? You're giving him some power here, telling him things like this. Do you not think that he's someone you're ever going to fight? Because if they did end up fighting, I think that Davis is already kind of ahead psychologically, just off the back of that. If you're the king, if you're the monarch and you kind of like feel like you're in charge, it's that kind of like never explain, never complain. Take that high ground, never admit that anyone is getting to you. And I know that he does seem like quite a sensitive guy, Lopez, doesn't he? Yeah. And I think that's a fair comment to make. But I always feel like that's what you've got to try and do. Like everything just deflects off you, because you don't need to pay any attention to what those people below you are saying about you, because you're up there breathing more rarefied air. But maybe he is one of these guys who looks at what other people say and it does get to him. It would appear that way.
Barry, Teofimo Lopez versus Keyshawn Davis, do anything for you?
Yeah, not bad, is it? I think Lopez turns up for that one. I do. I do think he turns up. I think he needs that fear factor. I don't think he had it against Ortiz. Maybe make excuses for him, but
that's very, very possible.
But can that be at this stage? I know he's not an old fighter by any stretch of the imagination, but he is experienced now, Lopez, and he's a two-weight world champion, big fights. Is this something that you can sort of coach out of him mentally? Because we've kind of had this sort of open psychological thing about him for a while, and then we sort of agreed around the Taylor fight that actually it might be good for him that he's kind of got this seeming chaotic life around him where he kind of goes about things the way he goes about things, because he's able to perform like that when it really matters. But we have now had the Nakatani fight, the Sandor. He didn't look great against Pedro Campo, his first fight at 140.
Yeah. And
now this fight, is this something that is just going to be part of his makeup?
Yeah, I think so. I think it is. I think he needs to be in super fight. I think he's from that generation where if you're not a famous person, then it's an easy fight. What am I fighting you for? Like they're doing you a favour. But then when he boxes like a Taylor or Lomachenko, then you know that this is the fight I need to beat. This is a big fight. This is a big fight. This is a huge one. Everyone's going to be watching this. I think he thrives from that. He's a showman, isn't he? He wants everyone to watch him. He might think this Ortiz fight, no one knows who he is. Outside of boxing, who cares? rather than think I'm still on ESPN. You know what I mean? I still need to like show up. And one, I don't want to lose. Two, I got to sell myself continuously for bigger fights, and so people will demand I fight other people. They cut the power performances, and people forget who you are in this sport more than ever now. So yeah, I do think against Keyshawn Davis he would turn up because there would be a fear factor there because he could get totally outboxed. But Davis won't run. I don't think he can move. But I don't think he'd move as much. I think he'd be hard to hit clean. But I think he would stand with him and he'd exchange with Lopez, and that'll give Lopez an opportunity. Lopez's heart is erratic as well. From the way he jumps in from unorthodox angles with some of those shots. If he gets it wrong, then he can be in real trouble. But he quite often gets it right, and he does carry power. So he's a danger. And for Davis, I don't see why he needs to go up there yet. I mean, it's just he's in a hard enough division, and it's his own weight. And he looked fantastic the other night. He really did. But there's still bigger fights ahead for him. I think you got a bit of time. You haven't got loads of time. You got a bit of time. He's like, just deal with your own stuff. I would say that, and you chase the money for these fights, but like you don't want to get there too soon and give away a natural weight advantages. Maybe it's not. Maybe he might be dead at the weight. I don't know, but he seems okay with it.
Yeah, he should be okay.
Yeah, he should be okay.
And you think of it as well, the top ranker sort of, as they often do, sort of going about their business nicely with those vacant belts at 135. You've got Denis Berinchik's boxing Emmanuel Navarrete.
Exactly,
Navarrete wins that as an IBF that's there for Keyshawn Davis. Lomachenko, Kambosos. I think we all expect Lomachenko to win that. Shakur Stevenson, the unretired Shakur Stevenson, welcome back. He's unretired now. He's back. I was worried for 20 minutes or so when he retired. But yeah, so he's back. He's obviously got the WBC. And then the other one's Gervonta Davis, who will probably go and do his own thing. But yeah, you'd think that there's ample opportunities for him at 135, but you never know. It's not too early to be stoking the fires for a big fight like that. And again, if you're Keyshawn Davis and you're looking at that performance at the weekend, you're probably licking your lips, as a lot of 140s are. I think again, it's sort of the curious case of Teofimo Lopez, where there's fighters who, with respect to your Jack Cattralls and Richardson Hitchens, have not achieved anywhere near the same sort of accolades that he's done in his career, and there are arguably better fighters than them in the division. But their style against Teofimo Lopez, based on what we've seen from him in bouts where he's encountered guys with that style, they're real head scratchers. Yeah. And when you consider the fact that he's a 2-weight lineal champion, can beat this guy, beat that guy, but got the jab and cha-cha slides got you all over the place.
Yeah, but again, because of what he's done though, when it really matters, he shows up. Yeah. When it really matters, he shows up. So you have to judge that. But then, how long can you keep doing that? And I think he's still fresh, but I mean, it's just, you can't keep having subpar performances and then just have a brilliant fight all the time. Very few fighters have consistently brilliant fights. Almost nobody ever has that. But yeah, he's really hot and cold. Looks too
more than probably anyone else mostly I can think of.
Yeah. Somebody asked this on Twitter the other day, like, can you think of a world level fighter who is so up and down in their performances compared to Teofimo Lopez? Can any of you? I could think of one.
Fury,
potentially, but yeah, I don't think he's ever
not so much recently, but maybe no, not really. Since he's been
I
at
went
world
with
level.
James Toney.
Yeah, fair enough.
James Toney on his night could beat anyone. On his worst night, could lose to anyone.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
If you're not trained. But other than that, I mean, yeah, you are scratching your head. Someone who can be so beautiful to watch and so brilliant on one night and be so bang average on other nights.
So people are telling you you're God and you're a superstar and all that, and so and then you got to fight someone no one's ever heard of. I don't think Jamaine Ortiz was exactly that, but that sort of thing for him. They go, oh.
Well, somebody said, like, in the week, he's talking about every fighter apart from Jamaine Ortiz. He's talking about Haney, he's talking about Tank, he's talking about this, he's doing the thing on the stage of Keyshawn Davis. He's not thinking about Jamaine Ortiz, all he's thinking about Jamaine Ortiz is the week, I'm going to make this guy miss, I'm going to frustrate him, I'm going to do this. Teofimo Lopez is thinking about his showman entrance and fighting this guy and that guy.
I was a fan of the entrance.
At 4 o'clock in the morning, it's just not what I needed to see, Andy, I've got to be honest.
the circus theme, though, for boxing
just get
is
in
great.
the fucking ring, Teofimo.
I watched it Saturday, so I literally, Sunday morning, so I literally just like fast forward all the stuff.
Oh god! Just get in the ring. Just please get in the ring.
But it's part of the package. I was talking about Ben Whittaker the other week, and I was just saying, listen, like, I'm not a fan of all the stuff that he does, but he needs to do it more.
Yeah.
That's what's going to sell him more.
Totally.
All the ability. This is fantastic. What's going to really sell him to everyone else, to the world, is all the shit that I don't like.
Yeah.
And keep doing it. Do more of it.
All right. Anyway, before we move on, I think we've mentioned both of their names. Devin, Haney, and Ryan Garcia finally have got it on. Andy, going to come to you first. It seems like Ryan Garcia went the long route. Was talking about Rolly Romero, and he was going to do this, and obviously Devin Haney's been sort of waiting in the wings. It's been a fight that's been brewing for a few years now, and they finally got it on. Big event, big fight.
Yes, I think it is. I think it's a big fight. I'm kind of fascinated by it from the Garcia side. For Haney, it makes all the sense in the world because he's absolutely flying, and Garcia brings a lot to the table in terms of marketability and therefore money and scale of fight. For people looking from the outside in, this will definitely be a big fight. So it makes all the sense in the world for him. I just don't really know how much sense it makes for Garcia, because I love the fact that he is as hungry and as ambitious as he is, and how desperate he is to prove that he's a top fighter. But he came up well short against Gervonta Davis. Well short. Plenty of questions to be asked after that. He's had one comeback fight since, and now he's going in with somebody who is just getting better all the time, it would seem, who gave a brilliant performance against Prograis last time out. And I just don't see how he wins, Garcia. Honestly, I don't. And I know he'll make a lot of money from this fight. But do you take this fight and make a lot of money if you're Team Garcia and if you're honest with yourself, knowing that his chances of winning are not very good? Or do you think actually there's a lot more work needs to be done in the gym here? We need to kind of rebuild. We'll get him to that level, but we can't do it just yet. Do you play the longer game? I would have felt like you would play the longer game if you're thinking about titles and really building your fighter and improving your fighter and helping him reach his full potential, because he'll always be able to make a lot of money because of the following that he's got. I'd have thought that would be what you would do, rather than just throw him straight in at around his weight, maybe the deepest of deep ends, because I don't see how he wins. I just don't see how he wins. And then that's a second defeat, maybe a comprehensive one. I would say most likely a comprehensive one at the top end of the division. And then I wouldn't go as far as to say how do you sell him then, because you'll always be able to sell him. But what do you do then? That's what kind of fascinates me about this, really.
Yeah, it's something that we spoke about. He was actually one of our picks. I think he might have been my pick for a fighter to see something from this year. I didn't necessarily mean that jumping in with Devin Haney would be the way that we would see it, but we've spoken in the past at length about Ryan Garcia's profile versus his actual in-ring achievements and accomplishments. And obviously, look, if you carry a big audience behind you and you deliver numbers, you're going to get big fights, because it is prize fighting, and whatever the bottom line will always speak loudest. But just because I tweeted something similar the other day, where just because you can get the big fights doesn't mean you should be taking the big fights. His standing in the industry compared to his actual ability are very different.
He's always going to want to take them because he's a fighter, and that's what they do. But this is where I feel like the team around him, they should be the ones who are saying to him, we don't need to do this now. Not right now, not quite yet. Let's just... And that might be a hard thing to do when we don't know the extent to which he steers that ship. It would seem kind of unthinkable that a 24, 25-year-old would kind of have the reins of his career. But increasingly now, maybe they do. And maybe he's just said to them, listen, this is what's happening. Get on board or get off.
But the thing is, he went round the houses however many times. It was going to be Haney, then it was going to be Rolly, then it was going to be this. It seems as though Haney wasn't his first choice. He kind of put the tweet out and said, I'm going to fight Rolly, and it's going to be this, and it's going to be that.
That would have made a lot more sense to me.
Yeah, because it's a much more winnable fight,
yeah,
in my opinion.
Go. Exactly, yeah.
And particularly, Barry, against somebody in Devin Haney. I mean, we heard about this before the Gervonta Davis fight, that Garcia, he'd had a bit of time out. He didn't infamously want a warm-up fight before he boxed Gervonta Davis. He's had one fight since. And he goes in there with arguably the most consistent, I would say, one of the most, maybe the top 3 or 4 most consistent fighters of the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, you didn't see all the shoulder rolls he was doing in the last fight today.
I
Garcia.
did.
You know what I mean? You've done the things he learned. You've gone back, if anything. The problem he has
Just
is,
expand on that, because you mentioned there about him going backwards. I still feel like the best version we've seen of him was the one against Luke Campbell. I don't think that's a particularly outlandish thing to say. Where do you feel like he's gone backwards?
Because they're trying to make him a better boxer, which is what you should do. We go with this, talk about this all the time, don't we? But you've got something to make someone better, but I think his rawness is just keep doubling down on that speed and rawness makes him a difficult man to beat. I think trying to be too tentative and trying to be too clever against people who are much better than you. This is weird because at the same time he just walks onto the shots otherwise as well. So I understand why you got to make him a bit cleverer, but I mean, trying to make him a better boxer than he actually is, he's not going to all box Haney or even Tank. And Tank might jump into attacks, but Tank's a really intelligent
good boxer,
fighter. Yeah. So you can't do that. You got to your strength is your lightning fast speed and power, and he does that. He carries power, but it's without the speed. I don't know what the power is. Is he heavy-handed or is just
it's that whippy power in it?
But it's there and it's real, and he'll knock anyone out if he hits him right. That's the truth. So you got to get under play. But when you try and be a better boxer, proper box, you end up getting on your toes a bit. When you get on your toes a bit, you don't engage your big muscles in your legs, and without that, you don't push off them, and you lack power, and you becomes me. So but I mean,
you're better looking than Ryan Gosling.
I might have been back then. I wasn't, but nobody knows. There's no pictures back then. There's only proof.
We'll dig some out.
Yeah. There's a brilliant. If you find a brilliant with me outside the hotel at the Dorchester in London, right in flares. Like I got a green shirt with white collars on, and my hair's starting to go. I think I would have brushed it, and I'm laying on the grass like this.
Oh, you're fucking that.
Really? God, I need to see that.
On, they got it. It was on their press.
I need to see that.
Brilliant, man.
Might have to get Andy to ask for it.
Yeah.
But anyway,
but I think but the problem he has is anyone can beat him. He's not a bad fighter actually. I think but he's not at the top level of these guys.
No, that's it. He's not a bad fighter, but he's just not. Yeah.
Rolly Romero could beat him. So you might just if you've got a choice between potentially getting people Rolly Romero for less money,
good point,
or getting more money to box Haney, because your status allows you to jump the queue of people with more ability, which has always been the case. You take that, because if you do okay, but get beat, and the way he is, and following these guys, you can always get a big fight, and you can because that Romero fight's always there. You'll get another shot with somebody. So you've got to take the biggest fight in front of you.
Yeah, no, that's a good counter argument to what I was saying actually, because it's maybe I'm looking at it from a point of view of the people around him feel like he can get to that top level. He just needs a bit more time. Maybe they look at him and educated eyes think he's not going to get there. He's not that good, and in that case, then you do this, don't you?
All fighters do. You take a fight. I'd like to go back.
And you get injured. Anything can happen, can't it?
I fought Freitas after my hiatus with the brain scan stuff, and I fought him next. I had one fighting machine. I could want to fight, but I fought him. I could have said, "Oh, I'm not ready for him. Give me Michael Gomez." Michael got a British level. Michael might have battered me, and then I'm stuck at British level then, and I'm winning. By the way. You know what I mean? Like it's like I just take that fight. I want to be a world champion. You just take the biggest fight if it's offered to you. You take it there, regardless of the money. I mean, because someone like Garcia, he's getting big money wherever he fights, isn't he? So that Romero, all those other fighters who are less.
That's the difference.
There might be names, but the lesser names, he's always going to get those, even if he loses to Haney, because you just go. He's only lost to Haney and Davis, the two best. Not bad. They're not bad losses compared to the rest of them. Or he could get a pro-grade fight. I mean, probably beats him as well. But
one thing but it could be a bad loss, couldn't it? Because the Davis loss was a bad loss. What if, he gets deep in the fight against Haney, or he gets to halfway and he's having no success whatsoever, and he's completely demoralised, and he essentially does what he did against Davis, or finds another way to do what he did against Davis, which, if you're going to judge it harshly, is that he quits.
By the way, I think Haney stops him, by the way.
I would not be surprised either. And again, this is the counter argument to the counter argument, where it's like, okay, but when he's in the ring and he gets to the point where it's halfway through the fight, be it a Gervonta Davis body shot or Haney's jabbing his nut off and he's 7 rounds up, where he's not experienced and he's not crafted enough of a professional career to understand and manage that. Like, he's not had it. If you look at since the Luke Campbell fight, which was the 2nd of January 2021, so 3 years ago, he boxed Emmanuel Tago, which was over a year out after that. Then he boxed Javier Fortuna, way short against Gervonta Davis, and then boxed Oscar Duarte. That's not enough experience.
That's the problem.
And again, if you look at Oscar Duarte as well, you mentioned the shoulder roll earlier, tongue-in-cheek, he decided to do that on the night in the ring. So if you are working with him in the gym about being this, and you do this, and you do that, and then he goes in the ring and he gives it his...
No way did
Derek James. Yeah, Derek
James happened to do that.
No one. He said that nobody drilled that, and it was something that he decided in the ring at the time. So, like, again, it's like, okay, well, we're not even building anything here, because when he goes in the ring, he'll do what he wants. And that was kind of one of the, okay, whether we don't know how true it was, but it was one of the things that Canelo said about when he was in the Reynoso gym. He sort of gets in, he does what he wants, he turns up when he wants, and blah, 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 blah. And that's the flip side of being a big, massive name who can walk into a big fight. So when you can, and again, like Haney is, to be honest, like Haney has definitely grown on me in recent years. How could he not, with everything that he's gone on to achieve? I still think Lomachenko beat him in a 7-5. That couldn't have gone either way. But he has improved. But it's almost like, even though Haney, okay, disregarding Shakur's last fight, doesn't necessarily pass the eye test in the same way as a Davis or a Shakur does, or even a Lopez does when he's at his best, he's consistent, he's disciplined, and he will not, he'll think, right, okay, he's got a left hook, and the same way as Gervonta Davis did, and the same way Floyd Mayweather did, how do I take the left hook away from him? Once I take the left hook away from him...
And Haney doesn't do anything bad.
No, exactly. He's well-rounded.
Even power, even finishing. Like, he's not known for power or finishing abilities, but even that he does well when he gets the opportunity. But what he does his best is jab and move.
Keep it simple.
Just keeps it simple. And it can be frustrating times. He can do more. But he did more against Prograis, I thought. But he has a crazy long reach, and when you meet him in person, you see why going up to super lightweight was nothing but
he could have done it a couple of years before.
Oh, mate, he looked like a middleweight.
Oh.
Massive, wasn't he? So
he was supposed to be 165, wasn't he, on the night? Yeah, he was sitting in front of us on the night. Yeah, and he was still in shape, and he was big.
Shoulders like that.
Yeah, shoulders like that, and a waist like that. Tiny little waist. He's like a proper V shape.
Yeah, he's nicked that coat. He's still got the coat hanger on. So it looked like, but he was massive. But so but he's clever, skillful. He's very intelligent. And he knows what he does. He knows who he is, and he knows what he does well, and he don't give a shit what people think when he's in that ring. He might care about the whole thing outside, but when he's in that ring, he doesn't play to the crowd, which is a strength or commercially a weakness, depending on what you look. But for a winning mentality, that's a strength.
Yeah, his mentality is tremendous.
He could box someone like a Ricky Hatton in Manchester, and I'm not a one fan there, and it wouldn't affect him.
No, that's it.
It's irrelevant. I mean, he's one of those guys. He can go to if he was Canelo's weight, he could go to Mexico like John Ryder did, not give a shit like John Ryder did. But I mean, he could have that, man. I don't think wherever he goes bothers him. He wants to be at home in Vegas or San Francisco. No, sorry, where his dad's from. He wants that. All fighters want that. But I mean, no, wherever he boxes around the world, he just gets in that zone where this is what I do, and this is what I'm gonna do. And he's been good enough, I believe, the Lomachenko fight, to be able to do that.
He's proved it in the Kambosos fight, both Kambosos fights. He went over, he's like, I'll just go there, I'll beat him twice. Your dad can't get in, can't do it. At one point, he didn't have a trainer. He's like, don't worry,
but
mate.
But because he's so intelligent, he's watched Kambosos, and Kambosos is a hard man to beat, by the way, even though he's not an elite, he hasn't got elite skills or anything like that, but I said elite, bollocks. But he's a hard man to beat. He knew. He said, and you can look at it now, actually, stylistically, he's made for me, because he will never get past my jab. He knew it. He knew he'd never get past that left hand. And if he did, and you only get past it by making mistakes. And when he does that, I'll pop him in the right hand. And that's all he did, pretty much. He was so structured, disciplined, like in those both performances. I thought it was fantastic. Again, didn't set the world alight. No, they weren't like the fights out. It was, did you see that? But you got to go. He's going to Australia, for God's sake.
Yeah, that was about getting the hardware, wasn't it? Get the belts, come back, and then go
against a man who won't stop trying.
And he's good enough to watch.
Yeah,
he's decent enough to watch. Yeah. He's not, he's not lights, camera, action necessarily, but he's good enough to watch. You don't come away from a Haney fight thinking, that was, I don't really want to see him again.
And he's up against a puncher against Regis Prograis. And the only power puncher on the night was him.
Yeah.
Because Prograis couldn't get any close, couldn't get anywhere near him.
Well, that's what people have been saying for a long time, wasn't it? Once he'd moved up from lightweight, could we see a little bit more zip in his work? And I think we did on the night. Anyway, we're going to have to move on. Before we do, final little shout out to Abdullah Mason, unbeaten lightweight prospect star of the future with another impressive second round stoppage win at the weekend, last week, whatever, same thing. And move on to Saturday night. Barry, going to come to you first for Liam Dillon versus Reece Bellotti. We expected a firefight and we expected a very, very keenly contested bout for the British and Commonwealth super featherweight titles, and that's what we got. What a brilliant, brilliant fight.
Shit, man. It was really good. It was unbelievable. It really was. Like, I mean, you expected it, because you said the styles will gel, but there's no guarantee is there. On paper it's one thing, and realistically, like Dillon, like it's a great fight when you're praising the guy who's taking the punches, not the guy who's throwing them. Like Bellotti's got a great engine. Jim McDonald fighter, you're gonna have a great engine. I've experienced a bit of training with him, but he just threw some lovely shots. Bellotti, uppercuts, left hooks, bam, bam, they were you could hear
the right
it as
uppercut was a real shot.
Because it's only that indigo, so you're quite it's like you can really hear it all. And then when you're up on the stage, you're slightly away from the real noise of the crowd. And he was smiling at Dillon. I mean, he was just laughing, like it was just like, and I was saying, but you might be able to take a shot, but they have an effect on you. They have an effect on you. And then by around 11, I said, remember earlier on I said they have an effect on you? I feel a bit silly saying that now, because they never. It's unbelievable. But Bellotti just filled the tank up, and that's Bellotti won the fight clearly in the end on the scorecards, and rightly so. But like it was just an absolute beautiful war of attrition to watch. It was one of those fights you go back. At the end of it, when the bell goes, you just go, oh, I can't think where else I'd want to be right now. You get some fights like when I went to see, I'm not comparing it, when I got the Crawford Spence, just seeing that him dismantle Spence, and we didn't expect that. But you thought you'd win. You just go, where else would I be tonight? Where else could I possibly want to be tonight? Okay, my missus is in labour, but still, I made the right choice here. It's that sort of thing, isn't it? And it was and a few fights like that, like Calzaghe. Here you go. I did mention him for a few weeks, but against Lacey, it's like where would I want to be tonight? This is the place. This is why I'm here, and I'm glad. And that was one of those. Like it goes way down the list of those. But I mean, it was like where the else would I go tonight? We
had a beautiful quote from Barry Jones at the weekend, which I tweeted.
I can't remember saying
Barry Jones, in many ways, it was horrible. He's talking about the fight, not turning up here. But ultimately, it was just an absolutely beautiful joy to watch, which is about here. But I think that encapsulated it quite well. I think it was sort of fairly nip and tuck. I say nip and tuck. There was no nipping or tucking. It was pretty much war for the first 6 rounds.
Was mega competitive, wasn't it?
But after 6-7, when Bellotti just started to find that uppercut and the left hook a little bit more, those solid shots really started to...
I think he caught him with a body shot.
Yes, yeah, and then the right elbow just basically stayed for the rest of the fight.
I did say somewhere a few wrong things. I said I wouldn't be surprised if he's broken a rib.
Did anybody find out afterwards whether or not he did?
I don't know.
Because it looked like he was in big trouble. And for a round and a half, he didn't really do anything, did he? Just sort of kept that nail.
Yeah, he was, and even when he's throwing the right hand, he wouldn't fully extend it. I still think Bellotti would have won the fight anyway, but you never know.
And also, it's a punch that caused the shot as well. So
exactly, yeah. But you could see in the replay, you could see it. He got the angle of the shot. It's not like to throw it, but he took that right shoulder, right over. So we get right behind the elbow and whap, it just went right underneath it. It did. You could sort of, when you see it, you can hear it on the replay. You know what I mean? It's a replay. There's no song, but the way it landed, you can almost hear it go. Oh yeah, that's a great shot. That is. How did he stay up from that? I think every round I was going, he should be on the floor.
Yeah.
What was he doing on the floor? How did he not? Like he hadn't knocked
and he was fair play to Dillon as well, because he was pushing the pace towards it, because he knew he was behind and he was still pushing. He was walking into big right uppercuts and left hooks.
And he's one of those fighters you go, and it's easy to say that. Like you say, imagine if he had a punch. You say about a fella called Peter Judson, who had like a 50-50 record in the end, Peter, but he was tough, Peter. And then I boxed him. But and Dillon's obviously achieved more than him. He's been a British champion. But you go, what if they could punch? Imagine him with his engine, his chin, having power. It's like, it's a nightmare. Like
in your kind of experience of being around boxing and obviously being a former world champion, is that the one ingredient that is sort of like the the star-making ingredient? Is that
The
the
power.
thing that? Yeah.
I think ultimately when it boils down
Yeah.
to it, I think the heavier you go through the weights, the more apparent it is. I think, because everyone can punch, but I mean having real power.
That goes through the levels.
Yeah, it does go through, and because it can mask so many things. You find a lot of people trip up on it who have loads of power, and then when they get caught out at the level. But if you have that superpower, that mega power all the way at the highest level, then it doesn't matter if you're 11.5 rounds down, does it? You got it. Where other people who don't have that have to make sure by the start of round 12, they're ahead. You just always got it in your locker. You got to have other things as well, but I'd always pick skills over power. Ironically,
Yeah, I get
I have no fucking choice.
But with the power thing as well, it can. And another way it can kind of translate is that your opponent's that wary of it that they try and win the fight from the outside. And as just discussed at the start of the show, winning a fight on the outside can be hard.
Yeah, and also you get broken down as well by somebody who, like, they can lose 4 of the first 5 rounds as they know that they're just chipping away and eventually Chavez Taylor.
And that's what
eventually it's going to get.
That's why I say it's important when you have power, like, to make it feel as soon as you can. All these people who keep it in the locker, we line them up. But don't just let him feel it. And that panic thing, so it slows. Naz was the expert at it. With he hit you early, and then he'd play around maybe, but like you're afraid to throw a punch. I've been there. You're afraid to throw a punch. If I make a mistake, it's not like I'm going to get caught. If I make a mistake, I'm going to be on my ass. So you can't make a mistake, and with that, it tenses you up. And I've said this a million times before on the podcast. Just revert to any win from the last 4 years, and once you tense up, it constricts your muscles. And then you end up going this.
And you're more easy to read.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, it's funny. Like
this worse than it meant to be. I'm trying to get it sharp, and actually, I'm looking like I've never boxed before.
I think some of my maybe my favourite stoppages are the ones where, and this does make me sound like a proper sadist, but are the ones where you see a fighter kind of start a fight with some ambition, and then gradually or almost immediately, they just stop really throwing and they go into their shell, and then they give up because they just can't cope with what's coming in the other direction. And you want to see that in a fight where they go into it where it's supposed to be even. It's not just talking about someone being overmatched, but it's I've seen people do it in the amateurs in 3-round fights, and that's even more impressive, where somebody starts full of kind of hope, and then you see it slowly extinguished to the point where they just surrender, and it's just the most brutal thing to watch.
In January, it was the anniversary of Freitas beating me up, and I think it went on national TV in Brazil, the fight. So I had all these Brazilians message me privately on Instagram, like, he's mad. He didn't follow me though, thanks. But I mean, so you get that translate thing, and one of them said something like I admire you so much, or something like that, paraphrasing, because there was no way you could win, but you still tried to win. And I thought, what are you on about, you wanker?
Is that a compliment? Or is
do you know what I mean? But it's that sort of thing, because you are in the corner. When you get hit, you do think, I don't want to be here. You don't want to be anywhere else. I'll pick anywhere, I'll go anywhere, but I don't want to be where I am now. But at some point, you've got to fire back. But you firing back, it's not really going to have an effect, but you've got to try and win.
Yeah.
But as soon as you go like that, that
trouble.
could be you being knocked out.
That's sort of one of the things that I spoke to Sonny Edwards about after the Bam Rodriguez fight, where
And
after 5 or 6 rounds, the writing was on the wall, but rather than kind of stink the place out and go 12, you tried to win and you got knocked out because of it.
Dude, that was another fight. Where else would I be than here? That was that was a brilliant fight, a better fight than I thought. Like, I picked Bam to win, and I'm a massive Sonny fan. But I mean, Sonny showed more about himself as a character. I mean, he's full of a character. He's in the ring.
Yeah, but it's easy to be like
about
his
his character in that ring that night, because in like the face of defeat.
Yeah,
and
that decision is.
You don't know how you're going to react to either,
and people think they do, and they'll say that, I do this and I do that, but you don't know until you find yourself in that white heat, and it is a decision. You kind of. They all still think that somehow they'll find a punch and win, but subconsciously maybe they. You are choosing how you lose. Yeah. And there's all sorts of ways that you can choose to do it. You can make it look good. You can ask your trainer to pull you out. You can go down for a split second too long, knowing the referee will stop it, or you can do what he did, which is basically just keep walking into the gunfire until someone else saves you, or you get knocked out.
You just you don't even think. You just think I got to win the round somehow. So that's you see some fight like I would say Macklin. You go, your mate Macklin. Like he's got and he was tough and he did go out on the shield and he would commit, but he had because he knew he had a bit of power and stuff. But he looked like a fighter who had loads of grit. But some fighters don't look like that. Sonny doesn't. I didn't. Sonny doesn't look like that. I don't look like that. You don't look like because the way they box. Once you put it on them, they'll fold. And what you don't realise is that we've had to do this all our career. So actually we don't fold because we're used to pressure. And it's usually fighters like Matt, who because they're so strong and they're technically good as well. I can't say so strong and do have power that they when they're up against some real world class resistance, they go, oh shit, I've never had this before. They never had it before, and they do quit. But you see people like him, in a big fight, he didn't quit, and so you expect it from him. It's always a lovely surprise when you see someone like Sonny do it, because you think he might, if all that beautiful skill don't work, he'll have nowhere to go.
Then what?
He'll shit it.
Yeah.
And he never, I know, unless you're Curtis Woodhouse' opinion, he thinks he did. But he had a bit of a problem with beef, didn't he? But he never bottled it. He just went, I'm going to go for it. And you have to admire that. And I don't know, we were talking about that, but I don't know what we were talking about originally.
We were talking about Reece Bellotti and Liam Dillon. So Andy, going to come to you. You were unashamedly team Bellotti ahead of this one. Obviously not a Sky card, so we got the completely biased version of Andy Clarke last week on the predictions, which was great. But what a win, and a great the quote afterwards was brilliant from Reece Bellotti, where he said, they'd asked him what his inspiration was to winning, and he said, my son. I find the thing, it's been a long weekend. He said words to the effect of, my son, here we go, I got it here. So Reece Bellotti, when asked what inspired him to win the British title, he said, to prove to my little boy that I'm not a loser. He was around when I lost 3 in a row. He thought I was a loser. He now knows his dad is a British champ.
Yeah, that said it all, really. And yeah, like last week I was, as you say, unashamedly team Bellotti, because I did quite a lot of his earlier fights. Yeah, I went to see him in the gym a bit. And you mentioned training with Jim McDonnell. Could end up going down a proper rabbit hole here. But what Jim would talk about quite a bit when I used to go to the gym and see him, and I heard James DeGale talk about it a couple of times, was 16 minutes. Like, could you get in that field over there and do 16 minutes? How fit are you? Could you do the 16 minutes? And I was just like, what do you do during these 16 minutes? No one would tell me.
I don't know.
No one would tell me. But anyway, that was just kind of the thing that they would get mentioned. But if you're an outsider, I don't think anyone would ever explain to you what that 16 minutes consisted of. But I'm sure whatever it is, it's absolutely horrific.
You would do pads for they wouldn't almost wouldn't be a time limit on it.
Yeah, I mean that's what people.
He wouldn't. I remember Jim saying to me at one point that I don't tell them when they're going to finish. So they just have. But I insist that they give me everything every second.
But that's what
it finishes when it finishes.
That's what I say about training. I know, kids, people train smarter and better now for the body. But I mean, the mental toughness about running in the morning, for instance, is no good for your body really. But it mentally toughens you up, because if you can get up in the morning when it's raining and all that, you don't want to, and force yourself to go out and run in a freezing, dark, cold winter night. That steals you, because in the ring you've got to do things you don't want to do, like walk through punches to get the win and all that crap. And you're kind of telling you one thing, is it helps. Telling you have to do it helps, but ultimately, if you haven't been anywhere close to having to force yourself to do things you don't want to do, and sometimes going down to the gym and know exactly what you're doing every day is a sensible way to train. But sometimes guys used to go down to the gym quite often and not know what I was doing. I mean, they're doing this today. What? Oh, fuck, have I? Yeah. We're running before now. I just go to the gym sometimes, I run. And then go and do the bags and pads and stuff. And what I do, we're not doing bags today, we're doing 50 rounds on the pad. So we're not doing pads, we're doing 50 rounds on the bag. Shit, it was madness over sparring. Well, you were sparring. Yeah, and it just so you never knew. So you always had to be ready for everything. So whatever happened, you had to get yourself in the mind frame to do stuff. And it helped. It helps you adapt really quickly in the ring. So when I boxed Chris Williams, I didn't know he was a southpaw, and the bell goes. And he comes out left-handed. I go, oh shit, okay. I had to adapt quick in a fight, but this meant to be a comeback fight after the brains can't for the world title to get another world title shot, and they put me in against a guy who I didn't know he was southpaw orthodox, who's a good fighter, by the way, domestically. And it's just thanks for letting me know. But it's because of all your past experiences of not knowing what you're doing half the time.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're always
me being an idiot has helped me out through life.
Training is they always want to make it challenging, and it definitely is that. And he had a rough trot because he lost to Ryan Doyle. There was some real noise and momentum building around him at that stage because he's always been good to watch. He could always punch, and that was the start of 5 defeats in 7. And he did have that 3 in a row. And during that 3 in a row, he'd moved to the away corner, and then after that,
he got stopped by Ray Ford at fight camp.
And then after that, he kind of dropped off Matchroom shows, and he went down and won the Southern Area title. Most people wouldn't be prepared to do that, to go back to a small hall show and box for an area title after where he'd been. They just wouldn't. But he wanted to keep going. And then again, he was on the right hand side of the card against Yusuf Kamari, against Akib Fiaz. But he kept winning, and he got to where he got to on Saturday, boxing for the British title, and got over the line. And it was just really, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was great to watch. It was a brilliant fight. And during the week, it was interesting listening to. I don't know when exactly he did the interview. It might have been like a couple of weeks before in the build-up or whatever. But he said, "Look, I've been through it all. I've been through that point where people stop returning your calls, and Eddie Hearn, who would pick up the phone, all of a sudden doesn't pick up the phone because he's a promoter, and he's moved on to other people who are winning, and I'm not winning anymore, and all these things that you think are never going to happen to you, they happened. It's that cycle of boxing life, isn't it? We'll talk about it in a bit, but we saw it between Hamzah Sheeraz and Liam Williams not that long ago. Liam Williams was a guy who was beating somebody who was maybe judged to be slightly on their way down the other side of the slope, and the promoter's got his arm around and loving it. He's this blue-eyed boy, and then now he's on the other end of it, and that's just the reality of it. So to see him kind of, any fighter, but just to see them kind of almost refuse that, I just think is great. And like I said last week, that's what being a professional is. You stick at it. You don't just turn it in because people will tell you, oh, you found your level, you're never going to be this, you're never going to be that. British champion, 2-weight Commonwealth champion, British champion. Great career.
And he has found his level. I think he's this level.
But it's a really, really good level.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't matter if it's not. If it's Southern Area, whatever your level is.
Totally.
I mean, if you can't go with your level, people say you should quit. And I understand about the dangers of boxing. And maybe you get to a point where you continue. But at the higher level, there's more risk, arguably. So even if you can compete at that level, there's more risk because you're up against better operators who can punch faster, harder, quicker, smarter, and all that crap. But British level's a good level. I don't think he goes beyond that. The worry is they chuck him in a European title fight now, and he might win it. Who knows? But I want him to go and achieve more if he can. But I think for who he is, he could be at this level. You look back at go back to the 80s, and they'd have 8-9 British title defences before they even moved on to European level. Now you made sure you got your house in order first.
Yeah,
and
he's 33
now.
He's 33 now, and I'd love to see him. I was thinking about this a while ago, and a lot of the time careers kind of go in. If you stick at it long enough, at whatever level, they can kind of go in 3 acts. If you're not boxing out the away corner, where act 1 might be the amateurs, where you're in it for the love of it. Act 2, you turn professional, but you're chasing titles. You kind of trust that the money will come with titles, but you're chasing titles and respect and all that kind of stuff. And then if you manage to get that, and he's got that now, Act 3 is, now I've got to make as much money as I can in the time I've got left. And that's where I would say that he is. And it's not going to be mega money, but, make as much as you can in the time you've got left. And you have to make a decision as to how you're going to do that. Maybe someone will choose you as a voluntary if you're up in those rankings. That can always happen, can't it? Or you think to yourself, maybe I could win this belt outright. 3 more British title fights, commanding good solid purses every time, and look to do that. I
think you're right. If someone offers you a fight, you take the biggest money. I spoke to John Ryder in Phoenix after his defeat in the airport, and I said, go and put as much weight on as you can, so you can fight again. He didn't want to fight. He said, I'm not going to fight. I'm done. He said, I'm happy with my career. He's always had twinge. You didn't win the world title, but he's happy with his career. All in all, he earned decent money, really good money, I think. And and he's experienced stuff. And he went, I said, well, what if they offer you Edgar Berlanga in June, in Madison Square Gardens, and you're in shape? You'll take it. One last fight. Oh, he hasn't looked that great, and you got that Puerto Rican weekend thing, haven't you? Festival, and you go over there, and but you can't, because he said in the fight against what's his name, Munguia, he just couldn't see things happen as quickly. And we've talked about that quite often.
Yeah.
Just a split second, and he experienced it that night. But you'll take it. So you say start to get yourself out the shape. Don't last in too long. But for Bellotti, I just think take the fight. That's the biggest fight you can get financially if you can get it. But to get that British title, to get that belt outright, and have that underneath your bed for the rest of your life. No.
Yeah, and if you could accomplish that with 3 more defences, then that's a good solid amount. That's a good amount of money as well.
Yeah, for sure. And if you look at just going through his resume now, and you look at the domestic names that he's boxed, go back to we'll start with Di Davies at York Hall, Jamie Spate, Jason Cunningham, Ben Jones, Ryan Doyle, Ryan Walsh, Jordan Gill.
Ben Jones was there in the corner, actually.
He had one fight I remember watching very frustratedly, was the Francesco Grandelli fight. He boxed on one of those Matchroom Italy shows, and he was absolutely terrible.
Yeah, he was
awful.
That was the first defeat in that run of 3, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then he lost to Jordan Gill, Ray Ford. So I know Reece fairly well, so I'm sure he won't mind me saying this. But after Ray Ford, I remember late at night we'd been in the hotel, and I remember seeing him and Jackson, his son, who was talking about. I remember our kids are the similar sort of ages, and I started around the time anyway, whatever. So I remember looking over, and I remember Reece obviously just been stopped by Ray Ford, sitting there with his wife, and his wife, I mean, the fight is naturally always pretty much fine after. Well, not fine, but it's boxing. Whereas I remember looking at his missus and thinking yeah, I don't know, man. I think maybe this, you got a kid at home. I remember at the time he knocked a glass off the table and it just shattered, and everyone turned around, and obviously see Reece there, he's beaten up, and I'm thinking it's a shame because he's a really good fighter and it's not going to happen for him and stuff like that. And seeing him get over the line, and since then, Kamari, Fiaz, Dillon, it just shows being a good, honest pro he's been over the years can really take you, because that Dillon fight. Yeah. If he wasn't a good, honest pro and he was doing it because it's a bit of extra money, he'd have lost. He would have never. He would finished that fight so strong because he'd always believed. And somebody like that, look, a British title is still. I mean, at the weekend, I know Nathan Haney was talking to Ben Davison about it on the Queensbury card, and he said, look, from Lee Wood's own experience, once you win a British title, you never know. You never know where you can do, who's going to pick up the phone for what opportunity or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
But he's stuck in it, Reece Bellotti, and. Yeah, if he goes on to if he wins the British title outright, if he wins the European title, it feels like now it doesn't really matter, does it? He's sort of got to that point now where he'll always be a British champion.
Right, yeah.
So yeah,
and you're a success.
Absolutely,
you are. Whatever happens, and everyone's talking about world honours all the time, and you're either privileged to be good enough to win a world title or lucky as hell. But whatever it is, that it's a few and far between who get the chance to fight for it. But get the chance to get over the line. So you take what you're given. And when I turned pro, it was all about the British title. I only wanted to be British champion. I didn't get a chance to fight for it. I beat the British champion. I never got a chance to fight for it, and it's a regret. I've got a book of regrets, but I mean that's it. That and Sasha Hippolyte. No, I'm joking. But that's one of my regrets, because it's such. My training had won outright. Pat Thomas, he was a 2-way British champion, but he went outright at light middleweight, and he did, well done light middle. And I just thought that to get that, have that forever in your house was just amazing. Even back then, I didn't know much about belts, but it was there was no intercontinental belts there back then. The kids got belts all around their house. How many boxes? And I'm one of them. But it's But it was that you got a belt for winning something that meant something, and this was your prize for it. And it was so good, you couldn't just win it once. That was what freaked me out. Well, you win it, you keep it. No, you got to win this a couple of times. And I went, and there was one more again now, isn't there? But
it's going to be interesting to see where he goes next, I think.
But a great fight.
Brilliant.
Whoever won. I mean, Dillon was fantastic. I hope he can come again. I think he can. But it was just a joy to be at, really. Every round you're I think at one point Eddie Hunter were laughing at me. I'm doing the commentary, we're on stage, me, Darren and Mike Costello, and I'm tapping him on the Eddies. I'm going, what's going on? It was just one of those sort of things. I was hysteric.
Very good fight. Right, okay, moving across London on the same night for Hamzah Sheeraz versus Liam Williams. Barry, going to come to you first. We kind of spoke about it beforehand. And the potential, at least, for Liam Williams to have been served up, really. Let's be frank. And it was kind of the worst version of what we feared it might be on the night. Albeit great performance from Hamzah Sheeraz. Don't want to take anything away from him, but it's quite sad to see Liam Williams like that.
Yeah, it was. I just thought it was fantastic matchmaking. To be honest, I had no joy on it. Like Liam was being a fantastic servant to the sport. I think he's been good to watch. He's been value for money. He's been really good. But I almost got over the line once against Liam Smith in the first fight. But it's just the timing was perfect for Sheeraz, that's all. And I think Williams had shown signs before that maybe it's just not seeing punches as quick as he used to, not the tense for him. And I think the jab that knocked him out, I don't think it was anything. I think you look at it and go, whoa, but I just think you don't see it, even though it was right in front of him. Didn't see it, and that's what we all worry inside. He's just too easy to hit now. He's just, and we talk about this all the time, don't we, about the vision thing. Just see us like a millisecond too slow, so you can't brace yourself for this. Like shots you don't see knock you out, but sometimes the shots coming right at you. If you don't see them quick enough, you can't focus your mind pop because you're just a little bit shot worn, which is what he is, unfortunately. Then, any shot can put you down. We learned nothing new from Sheeraz in that fight. I mean, it was a really good performance, and it was a real statement for him, and it's fantastic. But I didn't see anything. I haven't got no other different opinion than I had from him before that fight, or I didn't see anything different from him in that fight. I think the fight before, Mitrofanov, thank you. That was that before, because that was a guy who was fresh and good, and he battered him, and I thought, whoa, hang on, winning's one thing. The way he walked through him was fantastic. With Williams, unfortunately, I half expected it. Take Williams from 4 or 5 years ago. It's a different, and he does that to him. Then you go, whoa, that's everyone take notice now. But for me, I didn't see that, because I thought what happened is what I thought was going to happen. Maybe a round or two earlier. To be fair, I said round 4, didn't I? But a great win, a great statement for him. And he looks really good. He got Frank Wallace doing the right thing. So he's Britain's Tommy Hearns and all that. We'll see, we'll see about that. But I mean, that weight division, middleweight, still saying middleweight. I think there's opportunity there to get a shot. I think it's all fragmented now with Charlo.
Janabek's got 2 of them.
Yeah.
The WBA has Arislandi Lara, and the WBC.
Is he proper champion, Lara? Is he like?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the
that's a fight for him.
Yeah.
Lara's good.
Lara's boxing Michael Zarafa.
But Lara got to be 77 now.
Yeah, he's getting on. Yeah. He's boxing Michael Zarafa on the roll. What's the main? The Tim Tszyu Keith Thurman undercard.
Match,
good card there. So you're right though. I mean, we've spoke about it a lot here, haven't we? The post Canelo Triple G kind of middleweight era has not been stacked. I mean, Janabek's got 2 of the belts. Do you think he's much away from there? How?
I don't know. I think the Matronov fighter, the name, Ukrainian guy. I think that was a more of an indication where he's going. This one don't really say, oh yes, he's there. I don't know. Am I putting a downer on it? I thought. No.
I mean,
he iced him.
Had you have said beforehand that you expected Liam Williams to give him a really hard fight and go 8, 9, 10 rounds and stuff like that, but I mean, we don't want to give Barry too much credit. But you did say this is kind of how it. So it's not Monday night quarterback, Tuesday afternoon quarterbacking. Do you know what I mean? You kind of called it that way before, so I think you've got every right to be that way.
I think Sheeraz is a potentially a world title material, but we don't quite know. The fight in Poland was an indication that he's close to that. But I think he might be, if he gets the opportunity to box one, I'd take it right now, because I think there might be a gap here where you can sneak.
I think he will get that chance.
Yeah, where you can sneak.
Yeah, I think it could well happen, couldn't it? Queensbury. It's almost as simple, I feel like, if Queensbury want it to happen soon, then it will.
Well, Sheeraz was before the fight number 5 with the WBO. Liam Williams was number 6. Nathan Haney's number 4. So could we see Hamzah Sheeraz versus Nathan Haney? Nathan Haney's obviously coming off the back of that brilliant win over Denzel Bentley. He's got to box Brad Pauls first and get through that. But Hamzah Sheeraz has said he wants to win the British title.
Yes, he has, yeah.
Sheeraz versus Nathan Haney.
I'm all for that. I'd rather that. I think he garnishes more experience. No, against.
Hang on, Shane Mosley Jr. is number 3. Barry, get your.
But that
middleweight champion.
Haney Sheeraz would be great, because you look at what Haney did against Bentley. And Barry mentioned it earlier. You win a British title when maybe you felt like that would be your Everest, but you get there and you think to yourself, I can kick on from here now, can't I? Can I? I think I can.
Nathan Heaney's going to be looking
who
at...
knows what Heaney could,
He's a perfect example.
Yeah,
Josh Warrington,
exactly. So Heaney will be bang up for it, I'd imagine. That'll be in. They've got to take that to Stoke.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's for Sheeraz. If you could go to Stoke in that kind of environment and beat a very solid, good fighter like Heaney, then that's almost exactly what you need before you go any further. If indeed he did get the win, it'd be. Yeah, I'd be all over that like a rash because, winning the British title is something that he wants to do because he would be the first English Pakistani to win a British title because Kash Farouk's
Scottish
done it, but Scottish. Amir never did it. He never boxed for a British title. So I know they're keen. I know they're keen to do that. And it's just the easiest fight in the world to make if Heaney beats Brad Pauls.
I agree with you, and I think that's the right route to go. I would only just say that middleweight division, now there's a gap. There might not be a gap in 18 months' time.
If they get the chance, they'll take it.
Yeah, because like 18 months ago, who does he fight for the middleweight title? There's not a look in there. There's no, he can't get Charlo. The Golovkin's still around. You know what I mean? It's a. Well, I'm whoever I'm going to a massive underdog. I'm probably going to get beat. I'm not ready. But now he might fight for a vacant title against somebody again who's also not ready like he is.
So you've got like the WBC. Jamal has it expecting him to move up. I think he was made champion in recess by the WBC this month. So we would imagine Carlos Adames, who's the interim champion, will be elevated. Arislandi Lara has the WBA, and then Janabek has the IBF and the WBO. But just on the Heaney fight, like if you're Nathan Heaney as well, you're probably looking at the Bradley Skeet fight and think, I could do that. Like, I can get on the back foot. I can do it. Let's see if he's like, because that's essentially how he boxed for large parts of the Denzel Bentley fight. And now, considering the fact that he beat Denzel Bentley and beat him well, a well-respected, well-thought-of British champion. I mean, it wasn't somebody who he boxed for a British title because it was vacant and he got to beat somebody up for it. He had to. That was a really proper British title win. Yeah, that's now a viable fight, isn't it? Hamzah Sheeraz and Nathan Heaney. I'm quite sure Nathan Heaney. I'll do the promo for him. I'm quite sure Nathan Heaney will want loads of money for that. But if they do it at Stoke and like there's Stoke and Heaney and all of that mad contingent he has behind him, Hamzah Sheeraz well supported in the Asian community. There's big Asian communities in Birmingham, Leicester, around there. You could see that being a big spectacle, and for a British title fight. I mean, that's surely as good as it can get, really.
Yeah, no, I absolutely, I think so. When they both won their titles on the same night, Heaney and Tyler Denny, I was immediately just jumping all over that. For exactly the same reason that Denny's got that kind of support, the same way that Sheeraz has. But now, like, Denny's got Felix Cash, I think, or that's what the EBU was saying, and that was always going to be more difficult anyway for the obvious reasons. But it's kind of the same thing in terms of they've both got a good fan base, but Heaney's got this incredible fan base, to be honest. And as for quite how many of them specifically would turn up, what's the maximum number? I don't really know in terms of the size of venue you would take it to, but that Heaney ring walk is pretty incredible, actually, to witness live. It really is something else because
it's him, isn't he? He's almost orchestrating it all, isn't he?
He's literally, isn't he? He's like the conductor. He's got the little choreographed moves on stage. It's just the whole thing is amazing. The atmosphere on that night would be one of those atmospheres where you would, like you said earlier on, you would be standing there for the ring walks and just thinking, right now, at this second, there is nowhere I would rather be than here.
And Haney was intelligent against them.
Yeah.
Well. He boxed really clever, I thought.
And who'd fancy it? You think like everyone's going to say Hamzah Sheeraz is going to do this, that, and the other. They said the same thing about Denzel Bentley.
They
said the same thing about Jack Flatley. So everyone was going to do this.
But Sheeraz does have a look about him that he's calculated, and he's understanding why he's what he's doing and why he's doing it.
And unfortunately for Heaney, everybody's now seen. I haven't spoken to Denzel Bentley in a great depth afterwards, but we've all seen Denzel Bentley go in there and, from my mind, looked like a guy who thought he was going to run Heaney over. And now everyone's realised that Heaney can actually do a bit. So he's not going to have the surprise factor that he did against Denzel Bentley when he boxes Hamzah Sheeraz. And Hamzah Sheeraz likewise, if he took Bradley Skeet lightly and didn't box to his full potential, he won't make the same mistake again. So I think it's a really good
but
fight.
Sheeraz goes in a big favour.
Yeah, he would.
Yeah, I do. I mean, we have said it already, but I don't know if he watches the boxing show. I mean, most people do, so he probably does.
It's award-winning, man.
I know Brad Paul's a little bit, so I just want to reiterate.
I know Brad Paul's as well. Yeah, and that's a good fight because Brad Paul's can punch, and Brad Paul's. I know Brad well enough to say Brad Paul's didn't make the most of his opportunity when he boxed Tyler Denny. He kind of froze a little bit on the night.
He did freeze, yeah. I think he would admit that.
Tyler Denny, experienced guy around the weight. But yeah, Brad Paul's will be full of ambition.
I like that fight. I like that fight. And that'd be a good fight to watch.
And again, if like Nathan Haney doesn't strike me as the type of guy who would overlook anybody. But if there is an element of thinking about a Shiraz or a world title or a Eubank, then those are exactly the type of fights where you could come unstuck.
He's in the position now, Haney, where because he's like a bit like with Dan Aziz, where you had no real aspirations. Maybe so you just every fight you just go in it. You just train hard, try tactically to get it right, but there's no fear of losing because everyone expects you. No one's expecting you to do anything. You can box freely. Aziz has been a product of that, and it's been successful because of that. I've been told. Buatsi, of course, but I mean, now people, like you said, there's no surprise factor. But he knows he's good. Now he knows you might think you're good, but when you know you're good, it's a difference. And you find that out. Most kids find out when they're 14 as an amateur. You go, yeah, I'm good now. I realise I'm good. You've won 14, 15, 16. Most of you find out. Even if you're winning stuff, you get to the point you go, I am good. Like,
it's one of my favourite questions to ask fighters. When did you realise you were good?
Yeah,
because it's such an open question. Yeah. Some fighters will say, when I was 12, I did this.
Mine was 37.
Mate, but some fighters will say that. It wasn't until I won a British title as a pro, really, that I thought, I'm actually good.
It can really work for you. It really can, because if you're purely just concentrating on your own performance, because that's really all you can do, because you don't know if you're good enough to win at that level, then that more often than not will translate into a good performance. It's this kind of holy grail that coaches and sports psychologists are really always trying to find, this ability to just think about what you're doing and executing your own skills without thinking too much about the result. It's a really hard thing to do, particularly in a sport like boxing, where you can get knocked out, because that fear of failure, because of the form it can come in, is just different to other sports. But if you can somehow pull that off, then you really are in business. But then when you become a champion, then inevitably you're going to start to think about, okay, well, now what I want to do is defend this a few times, and then all of a sudden that pressure that you've managed not to put on yourself too much is just there then, isn't it? There's not much you can do about that.
Some people have that arrogance, no one can beat them. You can't beat me. And they train because of that. If I'm fit and I'm ready, you cannot beat me. So I'll just be that. You can't beat me. Other people like me, the fear of losing, fear of losing is enough. Because you can't beat me. If I'm not good, if I'm not at my best.
The insecurity can drive you. Josh Taylor was a prime example of that. I remember being around Taylor at the start of his professional career, and hopefully he doesn't mind, because he's a mad Scottish bastard, might knock me out. But the insecurities of wanting to prove that you're the best,
to have it.
Like that constant, like,
I know.
Not every fighter.
I'm a massive believer in that. I'm reading Andre Agassi's book at the minute. I'm a bit late to it, and it's really, really interesting. And the more I talk to people about this, the more it all comes back to the same thing, is that fear is particularly, it's what drives people in training camp. Boxing is different to everything else. On the night, and this would be the same for other sports, but boxing particularly, on the night, you have to be absolutely resolute that you will not get knocked out, you will not get beaten. But during camp, the fear of both of those things happening, that's what makes you train a bit harder. Fear is your friend. You harness it and you really, really use it. And fighters who take the other approach, like Barry described, whereby I am the best, I'm indestructible, nobody can ever beat me, that's really dangerous. Because if you don't have that acceptance that you could lose, then when you do, that can be it then.
But that also, there's two things that take all the skill and to take that as a given. It's discipline and fear. The discipline to be disciplined. There you go. To train, make sure so that arrogance of I'm the best, but like Mayweather, but you have to train. And also, people say they have no fear, they're not scared. and all that. I think fear is the most important thing.
Yeah.
You need it. It has to be there.
But to have that discipline, I don't feel like you can really have that without a bit of fear.
Yeah.
So I just don't really believe anyone, even like Mayweather, when they say, "Oh, I was never afraid of losing." I just don't believe him. In his head, he might believe it, but I just think that some of the things that would have driven him, that would have motivated him, whether he realised it or not, it was the fear of, probably for someone like him, just the pure embarrassment that he would feel at losing.
Guys, particularly somebody like him who kind of made that his whole identity, didn't he, towards the end of his career? This unbeatable 49-0, 50-0, yada yada.
You don't lose fights at press conferences. You don't lose fights at weigh-ins, stare downs, all that. If you lose fights, then whoever you're up against, you're in the wrong sport. I don't understand how that happens. When we all try and look at, he looked tentative. He looked away first. Who gives a shit? But that means nothing to me. That though means nothing. Like, they look away. I mean, those people on the street look away and then whack you, like knock you out. But like, not me. But the night before the fight, that's the worst part. Because if it's things you haven't done, and we've all had those little things you haven't quite done, they're the moments when you go to bed, you can't sleep because your mind's working overtime. But they're the time, that time, by making weight, all things like all those things, it all affects you. You can lose a fight then. You can lose a fight on the ring walk just before the bell goes. Sometimes it's like you're there and it's like you're, and you smack yourself in the face. It's like a dream. Like a dream scenario. I mean, sometimes it takes, in some fights, amateur and pros, taking the first punch to wake me up. I mean, I know I'm there, but I mean, it's like, what's going on? And like, you can't feel it. It almost takes you to be like, to actually get involved with something before that happens, which is a dangerous thing. Because that one punch that wakes you up could be the punch that puts you to sleep. You can't always get it right. Let's divert back to what we were talking about.
I don't know. We've done a lot of diverting this, so it's been good. And anyway, let's divert away from. Actually, no, we'll stay with Saturday night with the return of Anthony Yarde against Marko Nikolic, not Niko Markolic or Emil Markic. There's lots of different names, but anyway, Anthony Yarde won't waste too much time. Won't spend too much time on the Nikolic fight, and let's talk about the potential fight, which seems to be brewing. People talking and saying all the right things about Anthony Yarde versus Joshua Buatsi. Andy, going to come to you first. That is for me the fight to make. For those two chaps, shout out the 5 versus 5, but please don't. I mean, no, stop. Just leave Yarde versus Buatsi alone. But yeah, it looks as though
it does.
We could be getting there.
It does. They. I know that they've been talking for a while, and I know the two of them have spoken. But I know that it's no secret behind the scenes. The discussions have been had since a way back, and when that fight between Buatsi and Aziz was supposed to be on October the 21st last year, Anthony Yarde was going to be working with us on Sky for that. He was invited to the rescheduled fight, but it's a week before his fight, so he couldn't make it, which was completely understandable. But then on Saturday, Buatsi was there, and they got him on TNT in the studio and at ringside. So all the signs are that this hopefully is what is going to happen next. As for whether it would be a 2-fight thing, one on Sky, one on TNT. These are the problems that need to be ironed out, or whether it would need to be pay-per-view money on Sky for Yarde to go and fight on Sky without an agreement that there would be a second one. I don't know about that stuff, and that I'd imagine is the stuff that needs to be sorted out. But ultimately, the two fighters want to do it, and they're the ones kind of driving this. But as always, everybody has the number they want, and they'll have to meet those numbers or get as close to them as they possibly can. But it would be great if it were made, because I feel like we've had a really good start to the year. There's been some good shows, there's been some good fights in the ring, but there've also been, immediately off the back of that, some other really good ones made. So we know what we're getting. We know that Wardley Clark is coming, but then Smith-Rockpool yet to be set, Wood Warrington yet to be set, but we know it's going to happen, don't we? Buatsi Yarde, I hope we do anyway. Buatsi Yarde, but that Buatsi Yarde is the real biggie for me, because it's a cross promotion.
And also, we've waited for such a long time for it, and there's been
and I think now's the perfect time.
Now it is. Like, I put out a tweet the other day where people said about, remember in the early stages of Yarde's career, we wanted him to box Frank Buglioni and people like that, and Tundi would say everything is timing. Remember that? Everything is timing.
He used to say that a lot, didn't he?
Yeah, the time is now for Buatsi versus Yarde.
And I think everybody agrees.
Over the years, there's been things that have popped up, like of course you're going to box Sergei Kovalev for the world title.
Yeah.
Of course you're going to box Artur Beterbiev for the unified titles. I mean, I say of course. I mean, Yarde's a nutcase, so of course. But you can understand why those fights had to happen without Buatsi. Buatsi had injuries. He had his promotional issues. Now it seems like the only potential obstacles are the networks, which are the most important
And the
ones.
other potential spanner that could come flying into the works could be lobbed in by Eddie Hearn if he decides that he wants to offer Yarde a load of money to box Callum Smith in Saudi Arabia. How's he supposed to turn that down?
Well, I can't see. I I hope I'm wrong. I know they're talking about like Crystal Palace or something like that for the fight, but I mean, how do they? The money they want, Yarde has earned more money than Buatsi, and he's probably the bigger name of the two now, I would say, ironically.
I think you're splitting hairs between...
Yeah, okay, but I mean, so, but it has to go on, again, I don't know. You presumably have to go on Sky, who have a bigger subscription base on their pay-per-view platform to get the money, close to the money they generate. But Buatsi's their fighter. I don't know, but Yarde's the easier sell because of what he does and the way he does it. Rather than Buatsi, who has the Olympics, but I mean the showreel of his career is dull compared to, it's not dull, but compared to Yarde's an easy sell, isn't he? The showreel knockouts of his career. Just put like any fight, and just any fight, go boom, put that on. Wow, look at him. You've never seen a man like him. Look, he's built like a mountain. And then he hits you, go through, he push it. He's
charismatic as well, can turn the line.
So he's the easiest seller too, but he's not boxed on that platform. So I can't see where it goes for the money. I mean and he's earned decent money, hasn't he, in the last few fights, except for that one probably. So year one, he'll have his number will be bigger than Buatsi's, I think. But Buatsi won the same, you would have thought, and rightly so.
It's hard to know as well, isn't it?
How does he do on pay-per-view as well?
I was just going to say exactly that.
It's a big fight to us.
It's a big fight to us. Do we see a pay-per-view card? Do we see a card where it's Buatsi versus Yarde?
I think that's what they would have to do with something like that. They would have to really try. I know every card's a stacked card, but I think they really would have to try and do that.
Don't pay-per-view cards just reduce the money at the top of the bill?
Yeah, they do, but I think maybe the top two, maybe. I don't think anybody ever looks any further down than that, But no, I tend to agree that sometimes it can almost be a bit of a waste of another really big fight that you could have as a really good Saturday fight night, sticking as the chief support when people really do buy it for the top of the bill.
But I'd say where it would be guaranteed if Saudis went in for it, the money wouldn't be an issue.
No,
but it just seems that sort of fight needs to be at home.
It'd be. I mean, yeah.
That's one that we have to.
You know what I mean? Financially, it's like
that to me is an O2 Arena fight. I know people talk about Crystal Palace. That to me is a nailed-on O2 Arena fight.
And I think you could pack it. I think you could sell out the O2 for that.
Man. Like they did 9,500 for a Coley Chamberlain, two novices.
Yeah,
like you get Buatsi versus Buatsi he's good atmosphere in there. It was good.
Yeah. Like, and you just get I know everybody. You get really, really behind it on the promotional front. Give it a long lead in. Lead times have got shorter and shorter. Since
you're watching
COVID,
Ed Robinson,
but just really just like a long lead in and just get that machine, every machine you've got, to work on it and really try and build it, because things can surprise you, can't they? Like things can catch fire in a way that you can't really predict sometimes.
And I think the duality of the characters in this is more interesting than. I don't know, it's obviously a different sort of plot line, but Buatsi and Aziz, lots of respect, former sparring partners. Yeah, it's great, it's nice, but as we all know, nice doesn't always sell. No. You want two different. You've got East versus South, like all of that stuff would be good. So I think the time to do it is now. Certainly from a competitive and a sporting point of view, now is the time to make that fight happen.
Be a really good precedent to set as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
because this spirit of collaboration with we talk about it happening in Saudi Arabia. And
Boxer
it's great.
and Queensbury have done it, though, haven't they, over the last 18 months or so? Did Joe Joyce and Joseph Parker done other fights together as well? Yeah,
there's a little bit of history there, exactly. And it would just be, it would be a healthy thing to see. It will all come down to money, and we never pretend otherwise. But there have been times during boxing history where things were just never going to happen. It was literally going to be over someone's dead body,
and it's not. It's not
like
that
at
the minute.
It's not that at the minute.
So one would hope that the powers that be can find a way to make that fight happen. While we're touching on the subject of the light heavyweight division, Craig Richards returned at the weekend. Stoppage win over Boris Crichton. Barry, you were there. I thought that was a pretty good workout for somebody who'd have basically 2 years out of the ring against a game opponent in Boris Crichton.
And the finish was good as well. That's the main thing. You know, it didn't look like I thought it was going to go the distance, didn't it, in the end? But
tricky, awkward thing in Boris Crichton.
Yeah, he jumps into his attack. He's hard to read. You know, he sits back as well. So he got a long reach as well. So sometimes you don't really takes away your confidence in your jab, I think. But Richards was nice to control. Richards, I like the way he boxes. Actually, he loves it controlled. And then when he had to, he went through the gears. So I think, that was a good performance for him. To be happy they got the rounds as well, which they won. And I think I do what Tony Bellow was saying, and like at the end of the fight about just that gelling process with before they were talking straight about the yards and would you fight Yarde next if that was offered you, and he will of course. But I think it's just to get them to Shane McGuigan, your mate, your lover, get him and get them working together for another camp together. I think that's important. Just to get that trust, that bond right. But I think that'd be a successful night for him. I think it was good. Yeah, good to see him back. And he's in the division right now, which is like, in UK for a while now, but still is quite exciting. Lyndon Arthur.
Dan Aziz.
That
makes a lot of sense.
I think Dan Aziz was asked about it at the weekend, whether he was he at your show or was he at the Queensbury show? He was somewhere, and someone asked him, Craig Richards, and he basically just said, yeah, fine.
Well, he will, won't he?
I mean, Dan Aziz fight anyone, wouldn't he?
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. So that
he went on holiday to Spain at a fight, didn't he?
Was it Spain? Italy. Yeah, really living that Marvin Hagler style, isn't he? You're going to go over to Italy.
I brought a gum shield, so.
Okay, and finally, going to round things off because we said before. And we've padded everything out really well here. We're going to finish on the light heavyweight division. The announcement of Beterbiev versus Bivol, the undisputed light heavyweight championship. I think it's been officially announced. Turkey Al Sheikh said it's happening. So
I think it kind of has during the first.
Yeah, have we seen a poster yet?
I don't know. I
always want to see the poster.
I haven't seen a poster,
anyway.
But yeah, that's what we're hearing, and I've no reason to believe that isn't what will happen. And great, it's a fight that all boxing fans want to see, and although it's difficult to know how much general interest there would be from more general sports fans, I don't care. Because this is one of those. I don't care.
This is for us.
This is for us.
I don't care about
this ends
guys.
up just being for us. I'm not bothered. Because you always want everything to break out into this mainstream and all that good stuff. But for this, I just don't care because
it's the same as Bivol and Vosdick.
Just a brilliant fight.
Wasn't it?
It's just a great fight, and it's great that it's happening, and it's about time. But it's definitely not too late. You can't say that Beterbiev is on the slide, even though he is now 39.
He might get old overnight.
Yeah.
Well,
so I hope everybody says beforehand so I can bet on Beterbiev.
I can't wait.
It'd be atypical that he gets old overnight. Boom, boom.
But nice one. But yeah, it has been made, I think, at the right time now. And selfishly, on the back of our chats about Buatsi versus Yarde, it also opens the door for those fights to happen because it looks like there's going to be at least one Beterbiev versus Bivol, if not two. So what are you going to do?
Yarde was saying Yarde was saying, exactly. They've got that void to fill, and also after the first fight, unless it's a draw or no contest or whatever, then we'll have an undisputed champion. And then the belts might fragment. If they just immediately say, well, we're going to have a rematch because that's contractual, then sanctioning bodies might say, okay, that's great, but we're not going to do that. And for a fight like this, particularly, they might, because it's not the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world where you're always going to want your belt in that fight.
Yeah.
The IBF presumably wouldn't, even at heavyweight, from what we hear. So you'd imagine there's a good chance the belts would fragment, and then you could fight for one of them. That's the only thing that I sort of heard at the weekend that I thought, I don't like the sound of that. Because that does mean waiting, doesn't it?
Yes, it means waiting, and when you wait, things can happen.
Yeah.
And the time to make the fight is now, not in 3, 4, 5, 6 months. You never know. You never know what could happen, who gets an offer. One of them could, we'll do that. We'll wait for that. And then, how much do you want to pay me to box Callum Smith in Riyadh? I'll see you there. You know what I mean? So that's one of the things that, on the surface, brilliant. World title fight, Buatsi Yarde, brilliant. But the mechanics behind that can leave a lot of scope for that fight to not happen.
And take Saudi out of the equation. That's the biggest financial fight you can. That's the biggest fight you can get.
Yeah, and one would hope that I don't know how much. Obviously, I don't know how much would be on offer to box on this 5 versus 5 card. I'm quite sure you'd be well paid for it. But one would hope that if the money's sort of within enough of a ballpark figure, they just do that one. That's the big fight, isn't it? Like Buatsi, we've been talking about that fight for 6-7 years now.
Yeah,
like that's the one.
And also like a packed out O2 or a stadium, whatever.
That's it.
A domestic fight, that for you looking back at your career, you go, I did that.
Yeah.
I was involved in that. Everything. It's not anymore. But it's like this whole city stood still for us for one night.
I think that does have that does have that about it, doesn't it? You could see that selling out the O2. Buatsi and Yarde. You really could. With enough build up into it. Yarde's brilliant on camera.
Yeah, he is.
Like he's charismatic, he's funny, he looks the part, he can fight. Like Buatsi can fight. I think you kind of need like a duality between them.
It's funny, because he never says anything horrible.
No.
Ever.
No. Never swears. Never.
I know, what the fuck's that all about?
Yeah, I know.
No, I think they are. I think they're a good pair of characters. And then he's retreated further into the background, but Tunde. You can rely on Tunde to do his piece when it comes to
if you tell
building
Tunde
up a
we've
fight.
got pay-per-views to sell, mate.
Yeah,
no
Josh
problem.
Buatsi, you've got the kind of boxing royalty in his corner. There's loads to like about that. Frank Warren, there's plenty to go on there.
But they will need something though.
Mm. Yeah,
something's got to happen when they have a disagreement.
I think that will have scope for, maybe not, because it's difficult to imagine Buatsi properly falling out with somebody, but I think the contrast of characters makes that interesting.
Like every boxer though, he carries a chip. I've heard it like a little bit. No, I don't know him at all really. I've met him a few times. He's like a lovely
There's
kid.
no playing with him.
No, for sure.
And if you decided that you were going to try and play with him, then I think something.
But I think it would have
happen.
to be led by Yarde. I think Yarde would have to say something, which we haven't really seen.
No, it would have to. With Buatsi, it would have to be led by the other person. Yeah. But it's in there. If you cross the line with him, then you could be banging trouble.
Yeah. Someone's got to force Yarde to say, "I'll knock him out in 5 rounds."
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. That's all they'll take, and I'll start then. You'll go, you can knock out.
Well, it's sort of similar to even the build up to the Aziz fight, where it started off with spars were quite good. They were competitive. They're competitive. Yeah. And then as the weeks gone on, you could just sort of see it just naturally when you're across from somebody that you're going to fight, it's going to build and build and build and build and build, no matter how good friends you were.
We had Aziz and Buatsi week after the other on the award nominated the Toe podcast on Sky.
Yeah, man. No shout outs for the bronze.
Award nominated.
The wooden spoon, Andy Scott.
Andy.
Andy, you just got
anyway, right? But then. No, and Buatsi did fight today with Aziz about, because he was saying well, why am I waiting for him? Why have I had to wait? I got to wait. That's 2 times that fight's been cancelled now. Well, because his trainers, I was trying to stir the pot, saying, well, you should be saying that. It's not my fault. Problem you've got a trainer. Your trainer's not ready because his other fighter's boxing. Callum Smith was boxing a little fella from Montreal, wasn't he? Beterbiev. But he said, well, it's not my problem. Why is my fight being delayed for you? Find another trainer. But he was a bit like, because I was saying you were the home fighter, and he's going, well, am I the home fighter though? Because I've had to wait for him twice. And I'm going, well, genuine injuries, and he was a bit like, oh, well, yeah.
Are they?
He was a bit. He wouldn't say it because he's too respectful. And I don't think he's too nice. He's too respectful. And but you could see a little bit. I think if he was prodded, he might ignite.
Yeah.
I just hope Yarde can do it because he's too respectful either. Again, he's like.
Yeah, he's a very cool, laid-back customer. You sort of need somebody to...
You can't really punch him. You can you?
Yeah. Right, before we wrap things up, Beterbiev versus Bivol. Who wins, Andy?
I'll say Beterbiev.
By way of?
I wonder.
I'll say points.
Nah, you're
I'll say
lunatic,
points.
man.
I'll say a massive ding-dong.
I love that.
A fight for the ages.
Barry?
Points.
12 round shutout for Beterbiev. I'm still with Bivol. I'm not confident at all with that.
I'm not confident in mine either.
But because as good as he can box and the judgment distance is fantastic, and that's why I think I thought he would beat him. But I also know when I've been pointing out for a while, Beterbiev, how good his footwork is. People don't think, like we've talked about this before. People think he just walks you down, but he slides into the distance. You don't know how Beterbiev gets from A to B. But he gets there.
Yeah, he's just there.
Like Golovkin used to, in a different sort of way. But all of a sudden you go, great footwork for a guy who's pretty much heel toe kind of fighter sort. But great footwork. So all of a sudden he'd be right on you, and he's the same sort of fighter. But I do like the way Bivol moves around the target. That little semicircle spins really quick, pivots, if you will. There it is. And but the bingos are all in, kids. But I do think it's I do just think he might be sturdy enough to frustrate him and we get over the line. But Beterbiev could knock him out in 10 seconds as well. So who knows?
All right, Beterbiev by stoppage.
That's one of those.
I've always liked him by stoppage in that fight, and I don't think we've seen anything from either guy. Good, everything pretty much all good, but I don't think we've seen anything that changed my mind over the years.
You talk about two respectful guys. I mean, trying to get anything out of them in the build-up will be tough, won't it?
That's why I'm glad. That's why I'm glad it is where it is, though, because it wouldn't happen without this.
Yeah, it's just the same, and it's the same
not
reason
a sellable fight.
Beterbiev Vosdik ended up on Fight TV because you've got two guys who don't speak the lingo and they're not interested in slagging each other.
But I've never seen Bivol panic.
No, but seen him hurt.
Yeah, I've seen it, but I've never seen him panic. I don't think. But this would be someone will find a clip hopefully and of him panicking. But I mean,
he got stuck in a lift or something.
Yeah, but this would be the fight if he did panic. But I think the fact that he doesn't panic, I think that might help him.
I've seen him panic once when Andy Purwout interviewed him at a really loud York hall, and you had a Brummie and a Russian trying to speak with loud music. He looked very uncomfortable then.
That's a panic-inducing scenario.
It was brilliant, mate.
He's saying Andy's last name without offending him. Hi, Andy Purwout. Hi, Andy Purwout.
But that fight is the one. Wanted to see
Andy Purwout to take Bivol for a mixed grill at the railway.
That's a good point, actually. He takes everyone there from us. It took me there the other week.
If you stop spending all the money on all these stupid podcasts, these stupid little things you do, you could pay us more money for your award.
That's enough of all these other shit you do
with your domestic stupid little things you do, like pay your household bills and stuff like that.
Whatever, I don't know. But at the end of the day, like winning a world title is worth more than money. That's what I was told.
Oh yes, you should be happy then. You should do this for free. Anyway.
When you do what? Me and him, you scumbag.
Wait, we also have 3 different picks then for Beterbiev Bivol. We have Beterbiev points. Bivol points?
Oh yeah.
Bivol points.
I say points just because it could deliver something. It just could deliver something that nobody thinks is going to happen. Every now and again, that happens.
He's been late in fights in the past.
Yeah.
If he knocked out Adam Dines late in their fight.
Yeah,
10-11. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I just fancy Beterbiev to stop him. Second half of the fight. I really like Bivol. Really rated Bivol over the years. He was always my pick for who's the most underrated boxer in the world. Then he beat Canelo and became sort of not overrated, but once he beat Canelo, it was like, oh my god! It's like, well, yeah, he was always to this fella. But anyway, that's all we have time for. Nothing really massively to preview this weekend. O'Shaquie Foster does defend his WBC super featherweight title against Abraham Nova.
That's a midweeker as well, isn't it? Is that Thursday night or Friday night?
Friday night. There's a couple of shows this week. There is a Thursday night and a Friday night.
Nobody wanted to go up against Fury Usyk, obviously.
Yeah, no, and that was that was great. But they're Friday, so Thursday night / Friday morning, Golden Boy card.
Yeah.
Jojo Diaz versus Jesus
I saw that.
Antonio Perez Campos. I don't know which one of those surnames he goes by. And Ricardo Sandoval versus Jason Mama. Good little fight. Decent little fight. Obviously, Jason Mama, former opponent of Sonny Edwards. Ricardo Sandoval sort of like not quite been what I think people may have thought he was going to be when he stopped Jay Harris.
His name's been mentioned for big fights for a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, when he got to that, I always find it interesting when you get to a mandatory position and you're not knocking the door down to enforce it.
Yeah.
Particularly, he was mandatory with the IBF as well, and they will enforce it if you knock the door down. But yeah, he boxes Jason Mama, and then on Friday night, there is Mauricio Lara's boxing on Friday night.
Oh, yeah,
and then there's Kuriel Nonshinga. I'm not going to make you pronounce it. And then Shavkat Rakimov against Eduardo Nunes, which is a good fight as well.
That's in Tajikistan, where I almost ended up going.
How does one almost end up in Tajikistan?
Well, so this is an IBA night. There's top of the bill is their champion series at cruiserweight at 86 kilos. Which is Ataev. It's a rematch of the 2023 World Championship final. I can't remember who he's fighting now. But anyway, that's on it. So that's their kind of IBA Pro series. But yeah, they've got that fight. He's fighting. Was it Eduardo Nunes?
Yeah, Shavkat Rakimov.
Yeah,
it's eliminated for Joe's title, isn't it? Cordina's title.
Would not surprise me.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
both well ranked.
It is. It's those cards are strange. You know, there's they get some. They do mix them up well.
Was it the same people who did the Beterbiev fight?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
They do. Yeah. They throw up some really interesting fights.
They do.
Fights.
Gadzi
Magomedov boxed.
Gadzi Magomedov boxed.
He boxed a cruiserweight. Who did he box?
Oh,
no, Artaman. I think he boxed. Gadzi Magomedov.
Sure
this is proper niche stuff.
Anyway, yeah,
everybody else has left us.
Yeah, me and Big Ron McIntosh were down for it, but unfortunately, in the end, I've been jettisoned, and the big man's going by himself. So I was up for it though. I've never been
Artaman, he stopped.
I've never been to Tajikistan, but
it was
a long way.
I left school.
It's if you look it up on the map, it's around the other stands. It's as far east as India, pretty much.
I'm going to get out to another stand this year. Did Uzbekistan last year. At the stand, man. Any stand can get it. Right, anyway, moving on. And to the end of this week's show. Thanks very much for you guys and sitting there listening to us talk about Tajikistan. Shout out to Tajikistan. And of course to Mr. Barry Jones and Mr. Andy Clarke for joining us on another episode of the award-winning Combat Sports Podcast, The Boxing Show. From me, Rob Tebbutt, from these two, thanks very much for joining us, and we'll catch up with you next time.